Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel. I am Black Widow Godfather and my strength was exposed by the Scarlet Witch. Chapter 61. After Halloween, K Chen decided to stay in Sovia for a while. I had decided to leave immediately, but that has changed. Lorna and Paige naturally did not refuse, the scenery here is beautiful. And Lorna's previous words were just a joke, and K Chen couldn't start with Wanda now. Because K Chen likes big. Moreover, they also like the two twins, Wanda and Pietro, and think they are cute. Lorna and Paige are just when maternal love floods, but they don't have children, and they can't control themselves when they see this cute child. So they went straight to Wanda and Pietro the next day and went to their house. K Chen met Wanda's parents, Django Maximoff and Maya Maximoff. Both are gypsies with a lot of romance and legends. But in the comics, these two are also just the adoptive parents of Wanda and Pietro, and they don't know what the reality is. But it seems that K Chen doesn't feel like it. The reason is that Wanda's mother, Maya, is not very beautiful. K, you guys are really good people. At this time, Maya thanked K Chen, and Django was also grateful to K Chen with Maya. When K Chen came to their home, he naturally came with gifts. Money is just a number for K Chen now, banknote ability. Therefore, K Chen took a lot of things and directly smashed the poor Maximoff couple. Wanda and Pietro are so cute, we're friends, K Chen said with a smile. A few people immediately chatted casually, and the couple had little knowledge, and naturally talked about Wanda and Pietro's affairs. Pietro ran away with the snack, not knowing where to show off. Wanda took out the new dress that Lorna and Paige had carefully selected for her. They bought a lot, and Wanda had never seen so many new clothes in her life. One by one, they changed the home as a dressing room. But the only regret is that the mirror in their house is all gray, apparently some years old. Wanda can't see herself at all, can only ask everyone if it looks good. K Chen took a look. It is worthy of being a beautiful embryo, and if it is raised for 2 or 3 years, it is estimated that it will grow and open. It is said that women have changed 18 times, but some women who are favored by heaven are bubbling beautiful from childhood to adulthood. Natasha is like that, and so is Wanda. K Chen watched Wanda cross-dress, the only drawback was that it was not big enough. He's talking about age. When you get older, you naturally get older everywhere. It has been said that the cruelest thing to a woman is to give her countless beautiful clothes, but not to give her a mirror. Now Wanda is like this, a broken mirror cannot satisfy her love of beauty at all, but there is nothing she can do. K Chen immediately listened to the side, and he unconsciously lured the couple to tell the truth. Wanda is indeed not their biological child, they are just Wanda and Pietro's uncle and aunt, but the two children do not know. As for who Wanda and Pietro's biological parents are, they firmly refuse to say. It's just that K Chen got a key word. Witches. Hearing this, K Chen also sighed from the bottom of his heart. It seems that Wanda really has an indissoluble fate with the witch. Halloween costumes are witches, and she seems to have a natural witch bloodline. Gypsies originally have the legend of witches. If it is an ordinary person, K Chen must be listening to the story, so the couple will say this. But K Chen is not an ordinary person, and when he heard this, he made up in his mind that he didn't know how much plot. Many people think that Wanda and Pietro's abilities are derived from the mind gem. It's not. Wanda can easily destroy the mind gem. If it is the ability given to her by the mind gem, how can she be anti-guessed? They have witch powers in their bodies, and the mind gem only activates their abilities and reveals them in advance. This is also why in Hydra's cruel human experiments, only they survived. Now it seems that this power comes from their mysterious parents. The Witch of Gypsy. K Chen had a meal at Wanda's house and took Wanda and them out to play. In fact, it was Wanda and Pietro who acted as guides. After all, they are not locals, and some places to see the scenery are only known to locals. And it can also avoid not being pitted. This kind of poor place that relies on tourism inevitably has a vice, that is, pit tourists. Sometimes locals are accidentally pitted. Of course, K Chen is not afraid of being pitted, but they will still be unhappy, and with these two little cuties of Wanda, their mood will become better. Sovia is mostly plain except for a few small hills. The Eastern European plain is very vast, from the Arctic Ocean in the north, the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea in the south, the Ural Mountains in the east, and the Baltic Sea in the west, with a vast area of nearly 4 million square kilometers and an average altitude of about 170 meters. Looking at the past, you can only feel refreshed. No wonder so many people like to come to Europe to relax. Even the god King Odin loves the scenery of the earth. It is a pity that the people here have such good land, but they are still poor. In the following days, K Chen took Wanda and Pietro on sightseeing tours every day. Although it is the age of learning, these two little guys are obviously not learning material. They are the same scumbags as Lorna. It's just that Sokovia Asia Pacific is small, and it's almost fun in a few months. If it is placed in Huasha, I am afraid that there will not even be a street in Chengdu for a few months. A few months later, it has come to 2003, Christmas and cross-Chinese New Year's Eve are naturally going to spend with the Wanda family, and their relationship has become extremely familiar. K Chen didn't expect that most of the year would pass so quickly, and they didn't feel tired during the game, but very happy. Both Paige and Lorna were visibly cheerful. Especially Lorna. She always had a gloomy temperament in her before, although this made her behave very royally and sassy, but it was not a good thing. Now she has a lot more smile on her face, although the smile is still cool, even a little ruffled. Not to mention Paige, looking at these great rivers and mountains, she feels that the world is beautiful. She spent the first half of her life in the brutal World War II, where mountains and rivers were broken and wars were everywhere. She felt that she needed to be better for the rest of her life. Paige slowly accepted all this and regarded herself as a person of this world. And K Chen and Lorna are her new family. Across the Chinese New Year's Eve, K Chen raised the little princess Wanda high and asked, "Wanda, do you want to go to the outside world?" "Think," Wanda said without thinking. In the past few months, K Chen and they have said a lot about the outside world, developed, advanced, and fun. Wanda can't wait. "Then brother K Chen will take you to the outside world to play," K Chen said with a smile, fireworks blooming in the sky, which seemed to herald a bright future. Of course, this requires Wanda's parental consent, although only for adoptive parents. K Chen would leave this choice to them, but he would not force it. Anyway, he knew that Wanda and Pietro would not die, but Django and Maya were not so lucky. But sometimes fate seems to be fixed, and people without atmospheric luck cannot change their lives against the sky. When K Chen told Django and Maya about the idea and asked them to leave together for the United States, they refused without hesitation. K Chen didn't say much, although in his opinion, the end of the two of them choosing this way was that there was no good end. But he has always been like this, trying to persuade and never hinder. Sometimes your good intentions can be misunderstood. We have lived in Sokovia for generations, where we know people and things, and we have an inseparable affection for it. Maya said this to K Chen. "That's a pity." K Chen opened his mouth and said, he had tried his best to save their lives. "I can only wait for Wanda to grow up and go to the United States," K Chen said with a smile. He knows that Wanda and Pietro will not die, and naturally will not go to multi-tube, each with their own trajectory. What if he interferes too much and causes Wanda to be unable to become Scarlet Witch? Although this is the original ability in her body, it is so big that it has not appeared, and no one knows when her ability will be revealed without the stimulation of the mind gem. Just like mutants, some people don't know they have mutant abilities for the rest of their lives. In this way, K Chen actually felt that he was a little cruel. He also knew why Ji Yuyi didn't dare to interfere more. Obviously Ji Yuyi knew everything. Wanda who is not Scarlet Witch is not good Wanda. Wanda was naturally reluctant, but it was useless for her to cry and make trouble. Django and Maya just don't want to leave. It's not that they think K Chen is not good, it's really that K Chen is too good. It looks like he is plotting against Wanda. They have to worry so much because it's so common. Although Wanda is beautiful, it is too small now. It was just after the new year, and Wanda cried her eyes red. K Chen naturally took her to eat delicious, but there were few delicious things here. Wanda was led by K Chen, and suddenly she looked at the figures of Lorna and Paige in front of her and asked, "Big brother, are sister Lorna and sister Paige your wives?" She had always felt strange because the behavior of the three of K Chen seemed to be close. And Wanda is still relatively ignorant at this age, does not know much about that kind of thing, and is still in a period of confusion. After all, it's only early 2003, and more than 10 years later, let alone Wanda, elementary school students know what's going on. Hearing her words, Lorna and Paige, who were walking in front, both pricked up their ears. They pretended to be careless, which made K Chen feel funny when he saw it. So he smiled and said, "No," as he dragged the word. Both Lorna and Paige seemed to slow down. In order to avoid being beaten, K Chen immediately said, "They are all my careful livers." Quote, "Some people say that K Chen is a scumbag, but the palms and backs of his hands are all meat, how can he give up? Love for one person is love, love for everyone is not love. Men are teenagers to death, because they have always liked girls." Hearing K Chen's answer, Lorna lowered the hand that was about to be raised, and Paige released her clenched fist. He almost smashed a shield into K Chen's face. Now Paige's relationship with K Chen is complicated, but it is definitely no longer pure. Then, they heard Wanda say in ignorance, "Then I will also be my brother's careful liver." Lorna and Paige couldn't help but turn their heads, only to see K Chen smiling at Wanda. "Don't worry, you have long been my brother's careful liver." "Brother, what happened to Sister Lorna and Sister Paige?" "It's okay, they ate too much vinegar today." After turning around, K Chen sent Wanda back. Lorna and Paige couldn't bear to go straight back and were by Wanda. "I want to rob men with them at such a young age, and when I grow up, I still have it." Although they knew it was Wanda's unconscious words. But both women are careful eyes. The captain of this world smacked with other women, and Paige of this world went up and slapped him and fired a few shots. Not to mention Lorna, who likes to think about these things. "I had a lot of trouble with Erica before, and in the end it was slowly smoothed out by time. It's just that K Chen still feels a little funny. I didn't expect little Wanda to have such a bad mind." He was a little looking forward to being careful what his liver would look like when it grew up. As the first sweet sister of Marvel and the first royal sister off the field, Wanda is incomparably capable of fighting both in appearance and figure. Thinking like this, K Chen swayed alone and prepared to go back. The scenery at night is actually good, but the wind is a little cool. At this moment, he saw a little light in front of him, as if someone had placed some formation with candlelight. K Chen looked ahead, and saw a figure who couldn't tell the difference between men and women, wearing a cloak that covered his entire body, and a hood, as if waiting for something. K Chen stood in place and did not approach, because the other party had already discovered him. "You're not the one I'm waiting for, get out of here right away," the other party said in a hoarse voice. "So who are you waiting for?" K Chen asked. The faint candlelight made him unable to see the other party clearly, and the other party also covered his entire body. "It's not you anyway, if you don't leave, it's a good thing for you." She snorted coldly, and K Chen heard it. It was a woman's voice. Just when K Chen was about to say something, a portal suddenly appeared around him. At first glance, he thought it was Karma Taj who was coming. But it soon became clear that these portals were different from Karma Taj's portal, although they were also golden, but Karma Taj's portal was a golden circle because it was the power of magic. And the portal in front of me is a cuboid, as if a door was opened out of thin air, and there is no magical power burning on the side of the door, but it looks sci-fi. One is the power of magic, and the other is the power of technology. What happened afterwards also confirmed K Chen's thoughts. "I saw several well-dressed soldier-like people coming out of it, holding batons like weapons in their hands, and their equipment looked very advanced. This is the Time Variation Authority. The Time Variation Authority, which oversees, adjusts, and ultimately balances the vast number of timelines in the multiverse of infinite variables. Their employees call this the sacred timeline. As long as the general direction is not changed, they will not care. Because they can't detect it either. But if there is a big timeline change, they will come out and adjust it so that it goes in the direction prescribed by the sacred timeline. For example, in Avengers IV, Loki got the cosmic cube and tried to escape, but was captured by the people of the Time Mutation Authority. There is also the elderly Loki who has lived for thousands of years, and the Time Mutation Authority could not detect him, but because he moved the idea of going to Thor, he changed the timeline and was caught. This proves that the Time Variation Authority is not strong, at least not such an anti-heavenly organization. Complete management of sacred timelines is not possible. In fact, it is also true that the Time Mutation Authority was established by the Legacy Man, not the real Time Guardian, but Kong the Conqueror. The reason for establishing the Time Mutation Authority was only to avoid the appearance of his own evil variant, leading to war in the multiverse. He managed to win in the end, of course, to maintain his rule. At least live. And if there is a deviation in the sacred timeline, the other conquerors Kong may start a war again. The employees of the Time Mutation Authority are he who extracts various human variants from various times, erases their memories, and makes them believe that both he and the Time Mutation Authority were created by Time Guardians, and also built robots to act as Time Guardians. Obviously, what happened in front of K Chen's eyes at this time was a matter of cutting and mutation by the Time Mutation Administration. It's just that in the past, because the employees of the Mutation Bureau had the advantage of technology, they could easily take away prisoners, but this time they planted it. It was an ambush by the horse woman in the middle, who killed the employees of the Time Mutation Authority in 3 or 2 strokes. These employees are just ordinary people, and even if they have the advantage of equipment, they can only recognize powerful enemies outside the authority. The woman was extremely agile and killed all the employees, and then prepared to open the portal and leave. Because as long as it is in this timeline that does not collapse, she will be detected. But at this time, K Chen clapped his hands on the side. Applaud. Very good skill, but if I'm not mistaken, you should be a mage, right? K Chen smiled and said, why do mages have to fight in close combat? Quote. He simply used soul torture. It is clear that a single spell can easily solve the enemy, but it requires close combat, and the simplest spells are used. Like Gandalf, who wielded a tomahawk, he often used only light. Loki uses illusion the most. Ji Yi is also a melee mage, but he uses more spells than the previous 2. That's why you call yourself a mage. The figure of the woman in the cloak paused for a moment, and she spoke, you don't have to worry about this. Then, in the shadow, she stared at K Chen with a pair of eyes that seemed to be glowing with light. Moreover, how could you possibly know about me? She is confident, because of this timeline and this universe, it is impossible for anyone to know her identity. I know everything, Sylvie. Seeing her such a strong skill, plus she is a woman, and everything that happened. K Chen had already guessed her identity. Sylvie, aka the female version of Loki. She is one of the countless variants of Loki in the multiverse, and was captured by the Time Mutation Authority at a very young age, and the reason is unknown. The other Loki had at least a reason, but she couldn't know. Of course, she hates being called Loki and prefers to be a fairy Heim. Sure enough, Sylvie was shocked when he heard this. Her eyes hidden in the shadows stared at K Chen deadly. How do you know about me? Didn't I say that? I know everything, Sylvie. Quote. K Chen likes this God feeling. It is rumored that the true Most High God can be omniscient and all-powerful, and that all things are under his control. Of course, K Chen is not a desire to control, but likes this feeling of being holy in front of people. To put it in layman's terms, it is loading. For example, now, Sylvie was shocked by him, and his eyes were full of surprise when he looked at him. I don't believe it, you should have some kind of foreknowledge ability. Sylvie regained his composure and looked at K Chen and said. She took her hood off back, revealing her handsome face. Sylvie is the standard blonde beauty. A short blonde hair just over his neck and a slightly evil crown on his forehead symbolizes Asgard. Her eyes were dark green, shining like jewels in the faint light. Although her figure is wrapped in a cloak, the black tights under the cloak can still be seen on the front, which can be seen to be very material. At this time, she looked at K Chen curiously, as if she wanted to remember K Chen's appearance in her heart. But she has traveled through countless timelines and many universes, but she has never seen K Chen, another K Chen. But this is also normal, because there are too many people in a universe, how can everyone have seen it? I know everything about you, Sylvie. K Chen continued to be in front of the divine stick, wanting to make Sylvie lame. You dreamed of destroying the Time Mutation Authority, but you never did it, and you kept doing meaningless things. Sylvie was immediately excited. You talk nonsense, you have no idea how strong it is. Strong? It's just a bunch of ordinary people. K Chen immediately said disdainfully. The strong will bully a little girl. He compared Sylvie to a little girl, which made Sylvie clench his teeth. Because when she was very young, she was captured by the Time Mutation Authority, which was the pain of her life. So how can you help me? I can give everything. Sylvie took a deep breath and looked at K Chen and said, she finally believed K Chen's words. She had to believe it. Everything. This is not something that can be said casually. K Chen looked at her with a smile. His direct gaze made Sylvie understand something, and then he said, if there is fate, it is not possible to help you, it requires your own effort, and now, the people who are chasing you are coming. Then his whole person disappeared in an instant like a phantom flickering. Sylvie was a little annoyed, and she was also ready to endure the humiliation and cooperate with K Chen, as long as he could help herself. If she can destroy the Time Mutation Authority, Sylvie can give everything, including herself. But now, she can't even pay for herself, and K Chen seems to be unable to look at it, because she doesn't even know K Chen's name. K Chen's figure instantly appeared on the street outside the hotel. People in Sokovia don't have the nightlife of New Yorkers. For New Yorkers, the day doesn't really begin until the evening, and they can party and vent to their heart's content. The Sokovians were not so lucky, and at night there were not many lights, so they could only hide under the covers. What to do? Nightlife without foreplay is always monotonous. Therefore, K Chen's appearance did not attract much attention. But a portal soon appeared beside him. Furuchi, who had a kind smile on his face, walked out from inside. How does this spoiler feel? Only to hear Ji Yuyi ask. Apparently, she enjoyed doing it too. But K Chen wouldn't think that she had come to discuss her experience. He just said, I thought someone from the Time Mutation Authority was coming. They can't find you. Furuchi shook his head and said, K Chen should be the only existence in the countless multiverses, although such people are rare, but not impossible. In order to confirm this, Ji Yuyi also deliberately traveled to other multiverses before, wanting to find K Chen. Apparently all failed. There is no such person as K Chen in other universes, he is indeed the only one. When she was young, Furuchi could travel the universe and the multiverse, which was not difficult for her. Therefore, she concluded that the Time Variation Authority could not find K Chen at all. Why? But K Chen didn't know the reason, he asked. Because they're too weak, Furuchi said disdainfully. At her level, she simply looked down on the so-called Time Mutation Authority. It seems that the Time Mutation Authority is very good, but they are all against the weak. The one they cut the most was probably Loki, but Loki didn't know how many people had beaten him. If their enemies were Ji Yuyi and Odin, I am afraid they would have been eliminated long ago. It is precisely because of this that Ji Yuyi is so dismissive. K Chen nodded. It seemed that he looked up at the Time Mutation Administration. After all, the institution that two Loki can destroy is not a big deal. The two did not discuss too much about such small institutions. Is there something going on with the Supreme Mage? K Chen asked Ji Yuyi. Ji Yuyi is an existence of the divine dragon who can't see the end, and her favorite thing to do is to observe silently on the sidelines, and rarely takes the initiative to appear. I'm just here to remind you. Ji Yuyi opened his mouth and said, those who play with time will also be played with by time. Quote. Oh, K Chen shrugged. A lot of people think they know everything, but it's actually because of their ignorance. Ji Yuyi said with a little meaning, in the end, this will bring me big trouble. When K Chen heard this, he felt that Ji Yuyi could go and compare with Professor Charles X, who was the big god stick. Both of them love philosophical speech, saying things that make people lose their way. As if he had seen through what K Chen was thinking, Ji Yuyi was also a little helpless. K Chen's strength could not be seen through even by her. You can talk to Jean more when you have time, she is growing up very fast, but her heart is a little unstable, and she needs your help. Ji Yuyi then said to K Chen. Chen's strength has grown by leaps and bounds, but it makes Ji Yuyi a little worried. In case Jean is tempted by which dimensional demon god, it will be a devastating blow to Karmatage. This is not without precedent. Guichi's first apprentice, Mr. Gibbo, had secretly studied dark magic. Later, he accepted another disciple, Baron Mordo, and it turned out that he was not in a good mood and later turned against Doctor Strange, and simply hated Strange. Not to mention Cassius, who later became a slave of Dormammu. Ji Yuyi is poisonous, obviously knowing that the other party's mind is not right, and he will do things in the future, but even if he wants to accept the other party as an apprentice, it may be because she has this physique. Therefore, she is very afraid that there will be no accidents with her favorite piano. Because in countless timelines, many of them were Chen who eventually failed to completely control the power of the Phoenix, but deepened the blackening and directly destroyed Karma Taj. I will. K Chen felt that Ji Yuyi valued the piano too much, which was a treatment that Strange did not enjoy later. But Ji Yuyi is also right. Chen's personality has always been a big problem, and he has had some inferiority and sensitivity since he was a child, which is difficult to change. Only protect her. Ancient Mage Mother nodded with a smile, then opened the portal and left. Through the portal, K Chen also saw the Phoenix Girl Grey who was reading a book on the opposite side. She was looking at the magic book on the table with a bitter expression, like a student in school. Seeing K Chen on the opposite side of the portal, she was also very happy to shake her hand and say hello to K Chen. She went to K Chen's house during the holiday, but naturally there was no one, but fortunately she received the information, so she knew what happened. Read carefully, Ji Yuyi suddenly said with a straight face, and Jean could only continue to look down and read the book sullenly. Then the portal disappeared in front of K Chen. Good fellow, it turned out to be a one-on-one guidance from the Supreme Mage. K Chen silently mourned for Chen's heart. This kind of attention was something he didn't expect, and it was naturally good or bad for the piano. No one likes one-on-one tutoring sessions because there's not even time to be lazy. You know, even Strange was thrown aside by Ji Yuyi to learn magic on his own. As a result, the foundation of magic was unstable, and he became a quick version of the Supreme Mage. The piano can actually get one-on-one guidance from Ji Yuyi, it is to be sent. The strongest mutant, right? I don't know why, K Chen always felt that Ji Yuyi had some special thoughts. He guessed that Ji Yuyi might want to obtain the power of the Phoenix, but he never thought that Ji Yuyi wanted to retire. It was a little late to return, but neither Lorna nor Paige cared. After all, he couldn't do anything to Wanda. The next day, K Chen took them to Wanda's house and said they were leaving. Everyone is a little reluctant about this. Wanda burst into tears. It's a pity that no matter how much she cried, Django and Maya didn't leave. There was no way. K Chen could only secretly tell them, I suggest you leave Sokovia, it is too unsafe here, I estimate that there will be a war. Impossible, we Sokovia are peace-loving, who will start a war against us? Django immediately denied it as a man. Sokovia is poor and weak, of course peace-loving. But sometimes, if you are not peace-loving, no one will beat you, and the poor have no dignity. K Chen didn't say anything more when he heard this, just patted him on the shoulder and said, take care of Wanda. Quote, some people can't be saved. They are destined to have such a disaster, and if it weren't for them, Wanda wouldn't have become the Scarlet Witch in the back. K Chen found Wanda and gave her a necklace, which was the last gift. Soon after, K Chen and they got on a special plane and left Sokovia. They quickly put the Sokovia thing behind, although he was reluctant to part with the Wanda family. But the world is so big, who knows if we will see each other in the future. For them, Sokovia is just a journey on the road. K Chen cares about Wanda in the future, not the present. After all, he is not a pervert, and he has no cultivated ideas. After all, if you are too familiar, you will inevitably be a little unaccustomed. There are 44 countries and regions in Europe, and they went to quite a few. Until April 1st, the women thought that his birthday had arrived, and they were still surfing outside. Now Lorna and Paige are really happy. After all, after playing outside for a year, everywhere is the most expensive to eat, live the best, ordinary people simply cannot afford this consumption. After all, they are not rich, and the real local tyrant is only K Chen. Paige's first half of her life Britain is almost gone, is really poor enough to only have money, other materials have nothing, wartime also to reduce consumption, the back is getting worse and worse, where is it so dashing? Lorna grew up in an orphanage and has not had much money since she was a child. Until he met K Chen, it was considered that the time came, and he was raised by this local tycoon, and he had no worries about food and clothing. On this day, they chartered a sky restaurant and had a candlelit dinner together. The so-called sky restaurant is to bring all the prepared dishes to the prepared hot air balloon, and then slowly ascend to the sky with the hot air balloon. You can enjoy a sky restaurant tour, which is completely different from eating on an airplane, although it is also a restaurant in the sky. Hot air balloon is in the air, the breeze blows slowly, and it does not feel cold. There were only 3 of them on the balloon, a pilot, and a waiter. There are outsiders, and K Chen naturally has no bold ideas. Only after returning to the ground, did K Chen and the 3 return to the luxury hotel. They are the best hotels to stay away from home, and the level of comfort is comparable to that of home. At this time, Lorna gently pushed K Chen and brought him closer to Paige's side. Feeling her body movements, K Chen naturally understood in seconds, and patted Lorna's back with a slight emotion. I have to say, the feel is getting better and better. Although Lorna looks jealous, she is very considerate over time. Like she acquiesced to Erica's existence, and now pushed K Chen to Captain Carter. She used to live with K Chen, and now such an action is naturally self-evident. They lived in a suite, there were many rooms, and after Lorna entered the door, she ran directly to her room to take a shower. Paige was naturally ready to go back to her room to clean up, but then she saw K Chen following. Did you go wrong? Paige felt the temperature of K Chen, and suddenly asked. Yes, I can go wherever I want. K Chen hugged her behind her and said in her ear. Paige suddenly felt her body quicken, but still said, aren't you afraid that Lorna will be angry? Quote. Lorna asked me to come. K Chen's hand was not honest, and he directly opened the door and threw Paige in. Paige's body straightened and she closed her eyes. It seems that she has been looking forward to this moment for a long time, but she is a little shy, and the British Rose is like this. Notoriously conservative. K Chen picked her up, although Captain Carter is a giantess, but his strength is not bad, and he has long been exercised. Paige expected to welcome the storm, but she didn't expect it to be so mild. And you know what? There are 28 countries in the world that are seriously short of water. As environmental protection teenagers and resource conservationists, we must take the lead in avoiding the waste of water resources. Sometimes one water can be used more, K Chen said seriously, holding Paige and walking directly to the bathroom. Only envy mandarin ducks do not envy fairies. K Chen has always used almost the same model of basketball, so the feel has long been cultivated, whether it is a dunk or a three-point handy, and it is not a problem to break the defense with the ball in both hands. But this time K Chen was careless. Paige's basketball model is completely different, more than one size larger, let alone a one-handed ball. It is difficult to hold the ball tightly, and it is dented with a little force. The most commendable thing about Paige is her abyssal grandeur. K Chen didn't know how many times he coveted it, but now he finally got it. Naturally he couldn't put it down. Even in the state of the sage, the hand has not let go. Paige, whose skin was a little red, curled up in his arms and asked, doesn't Lorna really care? Quote. I was so selfless just now I think of Lorna. K Chen teased. Paige suddenly pinched him. Pain made K Chen suck cold air. Once this is broken, they will not have a happy life. This little character who must be rewarded, it is really not easy to subdue this goblin. Even Captain America Steve was killed by her. If it weren't for K Chen's nature being exposed from the beginning, Paige really wouldn't have accepted it so easily. The main thing is that the near-water floor gets the month first. In this world, K Chen is Paige's closest man, and naturally he won. Otherwise she would rather die alone than cheapen K Chen. Fool. Who would you help in case Lorna and I got into a fight? At this time, Paige suddenly came to a soul torture. Why did it fight? You are sisters who love each other. Quote. K Chen naturally would not send his life, pretending to be stupid and said. I'm talking about just in case. Paige said coldly. Of course it's for you. K Chen smiled and said, because you can't beat her. Quote. Captain Carter lost his shield and lost an arm, which was simply Lorna tank. But this answer was not satisfactory, and Captain Carter pinched him again. There is no way, the weakness of this old comrade K Chen has been pinched, and he can only obediently obey. So if Lorna and I suffer a disaster at the same time, who will you save first? Paige asked again, as if she had to get an answer. Really a jealous woman. No wonder Captain America of this world has been pinched to death by Paige of this world, and he has to stay in the past to accompany her to grow old. This question simply made K Chen's scalp numb. Isn't it the same as which girlfriend and mother fall into the water at the same time to save first? So he hugged Paige directly and said, "You are all my careful liver." Paige was not satisfied, and directly recovered her combat strength and sat on him. After all, it is a super soldier, and the most classic thing is that you can fight with others for a day. She can also fight with K Chen for a day if she is not blocked. But this kind of battle has always been very clear about victory and defeat, and K Chen has almost no possibility of winning Paige, not to mention that she is still a super soldier. In the dead of night, K Chen dragged his tired body into the bathroom. As if Paige would not get tired, and the more interested in the battle, he saw the horror of super soldiers. If it weren't for check-in, he certainly wouldn't have thrown in the towel. No, he didn't admit defeat either. How can a man admit defeat? K Chen shivered against the cold water, and finally calmed down. This kind of thing needs to be done slowly, and it can't fall for Paige. K Chen couldn't help but sigh. It's hard to be a man, it's even harder to be a good man. A good man has to learn to be wet with rain and dew. While flushing cold, K Chen did not forget his check-in after all. Taking advantage of the red luck that had been contaminated with Paige, he directly chose to sign in. Congratulations to the host for successfully signing in for 10 years and getting a 10-year super gift package. Every 5 years as a gift package, 10 years as a super package, and the items you can get in the big package are better. The longer you check in, the better the rewards will be after that. Red illusory gift box suddenly appeared in front of K Chen, with a yellow line on it. Of course, he didn't need to take it apart. With just one tap, you'll be prompted whether to open the pack. K Chen was excited and immediately chose to open it. Do you want to open the super package? Yes, jump. As if it were fireworks, K Chen's eyes exploded. Then there is a prompt to check into the system. The host opens the super gift package and gets the super reward, Serious Punch. Serious Punch. If I punch down, you may die. The moment K Chen saw the reward, it was a surprise, but it soon turned into a fright again. The style of painting seems strange. Will he also be bald in the future? The question arises, is a serious punch that is not bald powerful? K Chen really wanted to try it, but he suspected that if he punched the wall, the hotel would be in ruins. No one knows how strong Saitama's strength is, but what is certain is that a serious punch is definitely not the limit. He can easily exert more power if needed. So a serious punch is just one of his words. It is not impossible to destroy the planet with one punch. K Chen has such a strong strength. Isn't that what you want to do? Hey, hey, hey. Host. K Chen. Items. Life-sharing necklace Mother, Fountain of Eternal Life, Wonder Woman's mantra lasso. Abilities. Batman's combat ability, Hot Vision, Motherland version, telepathy, teleportation ability, mirror space, immortal body, serious punch. Looking at his panel, after his strength swelled, K Chen's whole person was also confident, and immediately went out to fight with Paige at night. Such an end is naturally that there is no good juice to eat. The next day, K Chen directly supported his waist, making Lorna's face green. Subsequently, she naturally did not want to give K Chen to Paige. Paige was too much, she just gave in for a day, and she was almost played bad by Paige. She knew that this big cow was not simple. Soon time passed, and just when they were feeling a little tired from playing and preparing to return to New York, they suddenly saw the news. A week ago, the continuous bombing of Sokovia led by the Lighthouse State killed about 1,800 people, injured about 6,000, destroyed 12 railways, bombed 50 bridges, destroyed 20 hospitals, damaged 40% of oil depots and 30% of radio and television stations, and caused total economic losses of $200 billion. At present, the United Nations has sent peacekeeping troops to search and rescue with all their might. Lately they've been traveling, but they haven't paid attention to the news. Now suddenly seeing it, both Lorna and Paige felt extremely shocked. Only K Chen shook his head. Poor Django and Maya really couldn't escape this calamity. At this time, Wanda and Pietro, who had almost been forgotten, appeared in the minds of the two women. They were going to go back, and immediately said, "How about we go to Sokovia again?" Quote, Wanda and Pietro won't be in danger, will they? Oh, and Django and Maya. Apparently, they didn't care about Django and Maya either. Paige is even more familiar with this kind of thing. It gave her a sense of being back in time to World War II. Every day when I wake up, I can see where the bombing has been. Don't worry, Wanda will be fine, let's go and see. When K Chen saw their appearance, he also complied with his wishes. Anyway, the special plane can modify where to go at any time. It was only to go to Sokovia, which was confirmed several times before finally modifying the route. This is also because it is over. In fact, it is a one-sided beating. In a poor place like Sokovia, there is no room to fight back in the face of such bombing. This is the sadness of small countries. The night before a few days, Wanda and Pietro finished watching the TV series. This is the nightlife of Sokovians, very monotonous. Then I went to bed and got ready to drift off to sleep. But it didn't take long for disaster to befall them. With the sharp sound of countless boom, and then accompanied by the explosion of boom, everything familiar around them turned into ruins. Wanda and Pietro's room was blown up in an instant, the entire house was blown apart, and the ground collapsed. Their adoptive parents, Django and Maya, were instantly wiped out. After all, there were no witches among them who could not physically withstand this fatal injury. Only Wanda and Pietro, who seem to be favored by the goddess of fate, are not harmed because of their petite stature, but are buried in the ground. For this scene, it seems that they should have foreseen it a long time ago. Not long ago, Django and Maya remembered K Chen's words, and then took Wanda and Pietro to the streets to march. As a result, it was better not to march, and the march directly brought disaster to Sokovia. For real scoundrels, you don't need a reason to hit you at all, a bag of laundry detergent is enough. Wanda and Pietro, who were buried in the ground, cried bitterly. I don't know how long it took, they didn't even have the strength to shed tears, and then stopped. However, the bombing continued, and explosions could be heard from time to time. It was as if the hateful bad guys wanted to wipe Sokovia out of the world. At this moment, a missile landed directly in front of Wanda and Pietro. At this moment, Wanda's mind memories flashed like a horse watching flowers, and a red light suddenly flashed on her body. There seems to be nothing wonderful about her life, it has always been so bland. Until K Chen appeared with her two big sisters, she felt that her life seemed to have color, and she wanted to see the outside world, but her parents refused. She will later, it seems that this opportunity will never be given again. Wanda only felt extremely sad, if only she had eloped with K Chen at that time. But she waited with Pietro, waited, and did not wait for a bang. They opened their eyes, turned their heads and glanced at each other, and now they were like monkeys pressed under the five-finger mountain. Pietro. Ha! Wanda called out to Pietro. There's words on it. Fortunately, the missile was a dud, and angrily, it was marked with a line of words that were very arrogant. Stark Industries. It didn't take long for Wanda and Pietro to be rescued. The United Nations sent search and rescue teams to rescue people from those wastelands. Wanda and Pietro lost their parents and are simply the most suitable subjects to study. The two of them were immediately taken away secretly. Because these search and rescue forces are basically Hydra people. Hydra has a lot of energy, especially after World War II, the American Hydra rebrought the European Hydra. In fact, as early as the late World War II, when the Red Skull showed fatigue, his subordinates basically wanted to find another way out except for a group of die-hard fans. But anyone with a normal IQ knows that following the Red Skull all the way to the black is death. And the Red Skull also betrayed the mustache, even the mustache fought with other countries, this is a normal person. You know, in Europe, basically every country has Hydra people. Such a huge force, in this area, is basically what they say. Therefore, this bombing of Sokovia is also Hydra's plan, and they want to completely occupy Sokovia. Turn Sokovia into Hydra's territory. Now it's been a success. Of course, such a huge organization is certainly not monolithic inside. For example, in the Council of Nine in the United States, there are 9 people with the highest power, and if power cannot be concentrated in one person, it must be very loose. Wanda and Pietro don't know where their future lies. I don't know what kind of great power I will awaken. When K Chen and they came to Sokovia, the rescue was already in full swing. They rescued what they could. After all, Captain Carter was a warm-hearted person, and it was impossible for her to see death without saving her. K Chen and Lorna went straight to the area of Wanda's house. When I came here, I saw that it was in ruins. Even that dud has disappeared. K Chen shook his head at Lorna and said, "Don't worry, Wanda and Pietro will definitely be fine." Quote. Their adoptive parents are not necessarily. Lorna also collected her mood and nodded. K Chen had a feeling of detachment, because it all ran in the direction he controlled. Perhaps this was what Ji Yuyi said about playing with time. Because everything is under control, if something happens to Wanda and them, he should panic. Perhaps this is the reason for the advice of the Ancient One. Those who play with time will eventually be played by time. The two immediately went to find Paige, and they spent a few more days in Sokovia looking for Wanda, but they couldn't find it. Don't worry, Wanda will see us soon, K Chen said with a masterful smile. Originally, they would not have died, and there was also the life-sharing necklace given by K Chen, and Wanda couldn't die if she wanted to. He tried not to change the trajectory of Wanda's life, so that he could grasp more. It can only be said that what he likes is Wanda when he grows up. K Chen is looking forward to meeting Wanda in the future. The unfamiliar is always more exciting than the familiar. The three of them flew on a plane, and after a long flight, they finally returned to New York. After playing outside for so long, Paige and Lorna were already tired. It's mental exhaustion, physical, also tired. Even if Paige is a super soldier, she is a little weak under the hard work day and night. The three of them rested for a few days before returning to their previous lives. K Chen came back and was even busier. The Hellfire Club hasn't been there for over a year, and I don't know if anything has changed. Fortunately, the Black Queen and the White Queen are safe and sound. Originally, the Black Queen had the upper hand, but with K Chen, the White King, the White Queen Emma would be able to live up to her. Seeing K Chen return, Ling Dai immediately complained to K Chen. Originally, she didn't dare, but as soon as the lasso of truth was entangled, she couldn't help but tell the truth. Master, that woman didn't treat me as a human at all, she really thought she was superior to me. Ling Dai said with tears in her eyes. She was obviously talking about the White Queen, because K Chen arranged her in the Hellfire Club, and as one of the three most powerful people in the Hellfire Club, the White Queen could naturally bully her easily. Don't say, women's jealousy is so strange. Because Ling Di and she are both the same people, the White Queen will want to bully Ling Di even more. Why did Ling Di get K Chen's favor? This kind of woman's open and secret fight behind her back, K Chen thought that he didn't know, but severely punished Ling Dai. However, he also said that he would punish the White Queen. This made Ling Di a lot more comfortable. It's just that this will only make their competition more intense. But this is a good thing for K Chen. Anyway, he is not afraid of having his leg broken. Compared with Ling Di, the White Queen was very docile and asked K Chen if he was happy or not. K Chen's itinerary was all arranged by her, and naturally she knew where he went. He even envied Lorna and Paige beside K Chen. But for her to give up the power of the Hellfire Club to travel with K Chen, it was also impossible. Power is like poison that only makes people more and more addicted. I heard a message. The White Queen, whose white skin was a little red, said to K Chen. What news? K Chen took out a box of cigars from the drawer and cut one. He used to smoke, usually afterwards, and felt that it was a sense of ritual. But then I just felt silly. Therefore, he gradually quit this habit, otherwise at his frequency, the lungs and body will be abolished. Cigars are different, cigars are not lung, more of a feeling. Of course, the main thing is that it is also expensive. Who doesn't love something that shows their identity? As soon as he took a sip, the White Queen snatched it from his hand and chirped herself. Then he lay on top of him and said, "The Mutant Brotherhood is looking for you, or rather, the green-haired woman next to you." Quote. She's mutant too, right? The White Queen said with a swallow. Oh, K Chen frowned. Lorna really let the outside world know, even if she didn't go out all the time. But with the development of the times, there has long been nothing impermeable in the world. Lorna used the mutant ability and finally let outsiders know. These organizations have more energy than K Chen imagined. But at this time, K Chen already had enough strength. He has more and more hole cards, and even if he is known, it is not a big deal. And as long as he hides his true strength and does not expose all of it, he can still continue to become stronger. So, he asked lightly, what are they looking for Lorna for? Who knows? Those guys are crazy, and it's not surprising that they want to find her to destroy the world. The White Queen replied casually. The Brotherhood of Mutants is the most extreme group of mutants. They are the exact opposite of the X-Men established by Professor X. If the X-Men are looking to coexist with humans, the Brotherhood of Mutants wants to destroy humanity and allow mutants to survive. Therefore, the White Queen will think that this group of people is crazy. Isn't the most important thing in the world still power and interests? What do you have to do to destroy one side? People like the White Queen and the Black Queen don't care much about the collective interests of mutants. They care about their own interests. As long as you control the Hellfire Club, there is basically no danger. Binding everyone's interests together is the safest way to play. It's a pity that neither Professor X nor Magneto will be, both are too extreme. Blindly doing good deeds and blindly wanting to destroy human beings cannot make mutants completely accepted by human society. It's over if they dare to come. K Chen thought of this and said casually. Some information about the Brotherhood of Mutants. The Hellfire Club has very clear grasp. This organization was only established in the 60s and 70s. Because its appearance has a little connection with the Hellfire Club. At that time, Black King Shao frantically wanted to trigger World War III, but was stopped by Professor X and others, and eventually Black King Shao also died at the hands of Magneto. No matter what Black King Shao wants to do, he also represents the Hellfire Club. And so the long-standing grudge began. However, the Hellfire Club only had the Black King and the White Queen at that time, and the Black King died, and the Hellfire Club was seriously injured for a while. Only the White Queen's Hellfire Club couldn't get in trouble. Fortunately, at this time, the X-Men themselves split. Magneto Eric said that he saw through Professor X and felt that he was too soft-hearted and not on the same path as himself. The so-called different ways do not conspire against each other, so Magneto put on Black King Shao's Edmund metal helmet and chose to go it alone. That's how the Brotherhood of Mutants came. At that time, the Red Devil, the Witch Raven and others all chose to follow Magneto Eric. Coupled with the fact that Magneto Eric recruited like-minded mutants from all over the world, the organization grew all at once. Until now, they are still strong, comparable to the X-Men. And it has been active all over the world, but it is useless. Over the years, Magneto has also changed from middle-aged to elderly. Like Professor X, Charles is an old man. What earth-shattering thing can such an old guy do? Odin has no ambitions in old age, let alone Magneto. Therefore, K Chen was not very worried, and he overturned them when he came. However, he still thanked the White Queen for the information. Prove that this woman is really dedicated to herself. The White Queen is a very typical love brain. As long as you are good to her, you can easily make her put a heart on you. It wasn't until the afternoon that K Chen saw the time and left the Hellfire Club. What saddened him was that after a year of not driving, the old driveway Challenger had problems everywhere. This proves that even a car should be driven and maintained more, otherwise it will easily rust. He could only drive away a White Queen car, America's favorite Ford. Because this is Americans' own brand, in this era that has not yet been impacted by Japanese cars, Ford is their favorite car. Ford's power is strong, high operability, sound insulation is also very good. I don't know how much better than other car sound insulation, the inside screams, it is difficult to hear outside. Of course, the disadvantage is that American cars are too fuel-consuming, and in front of this, other small problems can be ignored. American cars are all oil tigers, otherwise they would not be squeezed out of space by Japanese cars. Outside the charity company, the increasingly popular May finally got off work, and in order to go home to take care of Peter, she quickly came out to stop a taxi. After the change of the Fountain of Eternal Life, she is more watery than before. There were several flies surrounding her behind her, and when she saw her, she immediately asked, "May, I have a car, I can take you home." Quote, "These people want something to happen with May. May is mature and charming, the best of the best, and no one can approach her, which makes many people feel that it is a challenge. No thanks. May frowned and decisively refused, not letting these people come near her. Like a fly, she fanned these people away from her. But the flies did not give up, but stood on the sidelines, constantly wanting to give their respects. Americans don't know what shame is, and they are very bold when chasing women, which they see as a sign of self-confidence. They don't have humility, and if you say you only have a little, they'll think you can't. So be confident in every way. You can often see beautiful women surrounded by a group of people, trying their best to show themselves and wanting to hold the beauty back. Just when May had a headache, a Ford pulled up in front of her. She thought it was someone again, and she suddenly wanted to leave some. The thought of the Ford honking directly made her go a little faster. Where does this come from for unqualified people? The sound of this horn startled the flies next to them. Toot! The car rang again, and then the window rolled down. May, don't run. K Chen immediately smiled when he saw this situation, and this group of flies actually surrounded May. They don't know that May's eyes are high, and even if she is single for a lifetime, it is impossible to see them. May heard a familiar voice and finally turned her head. K Chen. She saw a surprised smile on K Chen's face, covering half of her face with her hands, full of disbelief. Although she often talked with K Chen on the phone and cooked porridge on the phone, she had long missed it immensely. K Chen didn't tell her when she would come back, which really made her wait for a while. You're back. She was pleasantly surprised to get into the co-pilot, and then did not close the window, making out with K Chen in front of a group of flies. K Chen seemed to hear the sound of a heartbreak. Listen, the sound of the sea crying. At this moment, everyone knew that May Parker already had a master. It is estimated that from today onwards, no one will come to harass her again. The Ford started slowly, and K Chen took May back to her home. May asked, "Why did you change cars? That old car broke down." Old cars are also meant to be used regularly. You're right. K Chen patted her. Don't go home yet, Peter has someone to take care of at home. May suddenly whispered. K Chen had already hired a nanny for Peter, and May was just not at ease in a hurry to go back. After all, he didn't want his women to be rough. When K Chen heard this, he immediately understood, and immediately drove towards the uninhabited area of Forest Mountain. The two have not seen each other for a long time, and naturally they have a lot to talk about alone. Ms. May, sure enough, Mr. K Chen came back, and your face was a little rosier. The nanny at home immediately smiled when she saw the two returning. This made May, who had a better complexion, suddenly blush. It is precisely because of her huge changes that there are so many flies in the company. Anyone who sees May can know that her life must be very happy. However, the nanny didn't say much either. Filipinos are very professional in this business, which means that they are very familiar with May, otherwise they would not dare to say such things if they beat her to death. Little Peter is already more than 2 years old, and when he is 1 year older, he can already speak, and he can speak many words. He seemed to have had a sword attribute since he was a child, and when he saw May come back, he immediately shouted, May, hug, May, hug, May. Suddenly put down the things in his hand and hugged little Peter over. Little Peter's big eyes saw K Chen. K Chen suddenly showed a fatherly smile. Little Peter, quickly call Uncle K Chen. Wow. As if feeling that K Chen was not a good person, little Peter suddenly burst into tears. This suddenly made May's hands busy. But after crying, he honestly called Uncle K Chen. After all, they have known each other for so long, and little Peter's memories have long had the appearance of K Chen. It's just that this Uncle K Chen always seems to bully Aunt May, and several times he woke up at night to hear May being beaten and crying. Magneto Eric, who had gray hair and eyebrows, sat slowly on the sofa. As the years passed, he felt that his physical strength was getting worse and worse, and he was not as energetic as when he was young. Good brothers who are about his age are basically like this. Professor X, Charles's old guy is going to be in a wheelchair. Even if the leg treatment is good, it is estimated that he has forgotten how to walk. At least he hasn't gotten to that point yet. At this time, Magneto Eric envied the Beast Hank and the Witch Raven. Their mutant genes have the effect of delaying aging. Hank is middle-aged even now, let alone the witch, who is 18 whenever she wants. If he has this ability, he will definitely be able to lead mutants to glory. It's a pity. Time doesn't wait for me. When he is old, Magneto always has this exclamation. He has a feeling of, the sky is far from me. Lao Wan's sense of mission is very heavy, but he has spent most of his life failing to complete the mission of leading mutants to rule humanity. It turns out that mutants are only a minority no matter how strong they are. There is a saying that the minority obeys the majority. Therefore, when Magneto Eric realized that his life was running out, he began to look for his successor. At this time, a green-haired girl, Lorna, who seemed to have the same mutant ability as him, entered Magneto's sight. He had a hunch that this child was probably the daughter he had left behind. Because of what happened to the mutant, he did not dare to take his daughter with him. One of his wives and daughters was killed by his side. This gave Magneto a psychological shadow. Therefore, he abandoned the children he later born. Mutant abilities are heritable. Seeing Lorna's introduction, he decided that it was his own child. Their own children, of course, must inherit their own family business. Make the mutants great again. It's just a pity that when he wanted to go to find Lorna, K Chen had already taken her to travel around the world. Lao Wan could only wait silently for the opportunity. The green-haired girl appeared. At this time, a mutant subordinate walked in. Lao Wan raised his head, he reached out and picked up his Edmund metal helmet from the table, and slowly put it on his gray head. At that time, the Black Phoenix almost destroyed this thing at will, so that he could not resist the psychic ability. K Chen came out of May's house, he didn't want to leave tonight. But Tony Stark, the neurotic Call, had to see him. Tony and he have not seen each other for more than a year, they have not seen each other at the Cross-Chinese New Year's Eve party, and they have not seen K Chen at the Hellfire Club, and they seem to miss it very much. So late, Tony didn't go back either, but worked overtime at Stark Tower. Tony was also very hard at a young age, and had an endless love for technology, and it was because of this love and talent that he was able to have countless outstanding works. Coming to Stark Mansion, K Chen saw Pepper's somewhat resentful eyes. Think about it carefully, K Chen hasn't spent a good night with her in years. Pepper, long time no see. But as long as you are not embarrassed, it is someone else who is embarrassed. K Chen directly hugged her very affectionately. Pepper's resentment immediately dissipated. The two talked for a while before Pepper said, "Mr. Stark is waiting for you in the office." K Chen patted her back, and then entered Tony's special elevator alone. The elevator goes straight to the top floor. Many people like to look down from above, which has a sense of excellence above all living beings. Especially the rich, it seems that the higher the more they can reflect their identity. It's like Tony Stark. He spent a lot of money to build the Stark Tower, which directly surpassed the Empire State Building, the tallest building in New York, and became a benchmark building in New York. As long as people look up in the city center, they can see the Stark Tower. This is undoubtedly the best publicity. Standing at such a height and looking down, even people without fear of heights will have a trace of dizziness. In his opinion, all sentient beings are like ants. Ding! The elevator soon came to the top floor and opened directly. The lights here were dim, only a little light, and K Chen thought Tony was playing something. But he finds himself wrong to blame Tony, and although Tony likes to play, in this kind of place, he never messes around. He still has great respect for the sacredness of technology. It's just that he is used to working in this dim light, which always makes him feel very much. But now that the guests came, Tony also said with some ostentation, "Jarvis, turn on the lights." "Yes, sir." Under K Chen's gaze, the entire top floor bloomed with the same brilliance as the red light district. Tony's face turned green all of a sudden. He immediately roared loudly, "Jarvis, it's not this kind of light, it's normal." Jarvis immediately changed the lights to fluorescent lamps, which was slightly normal. K Chen suddenly couldn't help but laugh. It turns out that Jarvis was also so stupid at first. Jarvis, what is it? But he still didn't understand the problem of pretending to understand. This made Tony suddenly have the desire to pretend. Everyone likes to pretend, but many times the stage is missing. Tony said suddenly, "This is artificial intelligence, I just researched it, how is it?" Quote, "I named it after Butler, and this is definitely the world's first artificial intelligence." "Aren't you also a person cursed by knowledge?" "How?" said Tony tauntingly. That's where Tony gets easy to beat. Like to pretend to forget it, but also mock others, how many people can endure. Moreover, he and K Chen are still good friends, and ordinary people can't stand his character even more. If it weren't for the fact that he had money, he would have been beaten countless times in the United States. K Chen smiled and said, artificial intelligence. I think it's an artificial retardation. Quote. Jarvis. But it is a gentleman after all, so there is no complaint. Tony was a little embarrassed, and if he hadn't been like that, he would definitely be recoiling now. Jarvis was a man of his father, Howard, a British gentleman who served in the British Air Force during World War II and was a champion boxer for 3 consecutive years. After coming to the United States, he became Howard's valet, and after the death of the Howards, he took care of Tony and became Tony's housekeeper. For Tony, Jarvis is like a father and friend, so after his death, Tony is very sad. In honor of Edwin Jarvis, he created this artificial intelligence, named Jarvis, and used his voice and gentlemanly character. Hearing Jarvis's voice was as if he had been with him. Tony is also an emotional person. It's just that the personality is a little weird. Let's not talk about that. Tony decided to perfect Jarvis and make it a little smarter. Otherwise, if he is embarrassed every time, he will not be able to pretend. So what's the matter with you? Looking for me at such a big night? K Chen also asked speechlessly. Originally, he was still in the gentle township, and he hadn't been with May for a long time, so naturally there were endless words. But it was all broken by Tony. You think I want to? Tony rolled his eyes and said, I've already made an appointment with Playboy's cover girl. I'm going to take her to see my newly bought big bed, who wants to be here for a big night. Complaining, Tony also talked about things. I heard you went to Sokovia. Yes. K Chen raised his eyebrows. Fortunately, you were lucky, otherwise you will be sent to the sky by the missiles I made. At this time, Tony did not realize the mistakes of the war. He was a complete arms dealer, so when it came to bombing, he was also eyebrows. When K Chen heard this, he immediately sneered, why did I hear that there is a dud? Quote. Impossible. Tony suddenly exploded when he heard this, and he felt that this was K Chen's distrust of his genius. My quality control can't be up to par. Even if all of Justin Hanmo's bombs don't explode, mine won't be duds. Tony is confident about that. This is his ability, the power of technology. He even reached the level of conceit in this regard. How could he not explode? That's simply slandering the Stark Group's arms. Oh. K Chen suddenly wondered. I thought it was something from fake Stark Industries. How is that possible? Tony's face suddenly darkened. Then, after a while, he asked, is it really not blowing up? Quote. Didn't blow up. Tony didn't know that he had provoked Scarlet Witch Wanda. No wonder Wanda wanted to tear him by hand. He did do something wrong. K Chen also guessed why there was no explosion. I am afraid that Wanda inadvertently modified the reality of the missile explosion, and the witch's power played a role in her life and death. And not the so-called use of counterfeit Stark Group works. That's the regular army, not a motley. Impossible. Did someone cut corners? Tony began to doubt life. He is confident in his product. Only someone who is equally confident can experience his current emotions. It's like thinking you can hold out for an hour and it's over in a few seconds. It's a mixed feeling. Okay, it's gone, what's going on? K Chen didn't want to see him doubt life. The great nightlife has just begun. Tony had to give up this idea for the time being. He thought that the explosion of his head could not know. This is something that cannot be done with the power of scientific explanation, so he said with a complicated feeling, have you seen the stock market? No, what's wrong? Am I a loser? K Chen was still a little nervous. That's not going to. Tony was speechless. Justin Hanmer announced research on a new missile to threaten the position of Stark Group, causing the stock to fall somewhat. And then, K Chen had an expression of trust on Tony's face. However, Tony was not impressed. I wanted to ask if you had any ideas. Even geniuses have times when inspiration dries up. Tony clearly hit a bottleneck as well. In fact, he was able to make a lot of things, inseparable from the creativity of his father, Howard. It's just that Howard is limited by the age and can't realize these genius ideas, but Tony can. Future technology has become real technology. When K Chen heard this, he suddenly thought for a while. Justin Hanmer was Tony's rival when he was a student, because both played with arms. Peers have always been mortal enemies. Tony Stark's light is so dazzling that Justin Hanmo has been suppressed. In fact, he is also a genius, just living in Tony's shadow. There is a feeling of both Shang Yu and He Shang Liang. And the deepest impression left on K Chen was that the ex-wife missile created by Justin Hanmo could not explode. It was really said by Tony that the explosion made by Hanmo could not be solved, and there could be no problem with him. K Chen suddenly said, "You can make Jericho missiles." Quote, "What's the use of saying a name?" Tony was a little speechless. It should be a surface-to-surface missile, the kind that belongs to the submunition, which can be dispersed in the air. K Chen described it to him, and Tony nodded suddenly. "It's a good idea, I admit it now, you are indeed a person cursed by knowledge, only 100 million points worse than me." Hearing Tony's narcissistic words, K Chen suddenly despised him. "Make more artificial intelligence, I want to raise my voice a little, hee. K Chen said to Tony, and then left directly. Just keep Tony losing his hair, and he'll have to enjoy the nightlife. Fa. Tony looked at K Chen's laser bottle. But he had to admit that K Chen was indeed very tasteful. After all, it is artificial intelligence, and making a cold voice is simply asking for hardship. Get a little bit of it, get up every day and have the energy. Tony and K Chen have discussed many times in the Hellfire Club how to pick up girls. Tony has completely inherited Howard's talent for picking girls, and every time he discusses with him, K Chen has a lot of experience. After getting off the elevator, Pepper hit him directly. Long Island Villa area. A group of people secretly appeared here. Magneto took people out with him, not wanting to attract the attention of other organizations. The Brotherhood of Mutants has received a lot of attention, and nothing can be done without keeping a low profile. They directly found K Chen's residence. In this day and age, it is difficult to hide your residence. Especially the rich. That's why they buy a bunch of houses in cities so they don't get found anywhere. But K Chen is a bold artist, and they also have feelings for the house they live in for a long time, so naturally they will not change it at will. If you have such a strong ability to always change places to live, what else do you have to do? Whoever dares to come will destroy whom. The movement they caused soon attracted Paige's attention. Paige was preparing to rest. She was used to K Chen's night without returning. She and Lorna both knew that K Chen was not a safe lord, so what could she do if she didn't come back at night? But they all tacitly did not prejudge this matter in front of K Chen. It's just fun, as long as you don't take it home. At this time, she opened the curtains and suddenly saw several figures outside, and they didn't look like normal people. She immediately mounted her horse and changed into her suit to find Lorna. There is a situation. I found out, go meet them. Lorna had already found out. Because the other party did not avoid them at all, they were very domineering. Magneto is domineering, and those who have power can easily do whatever they want. He could have had a safer way, but chose to come with someone. I didn't know, I thought he was here to find someone to fight. Lorna went downstairs with Paige. Lorna was still dressed very casually, she didn't really like the uniform, Halloween was enough. Who are you? Coming to the courtyard, the not very bright lights made them not very real. There were really a lot of people coming. Leading the way was an old man with a metal helmet on his head. He was followed by a number of people, a huge red tank wearing a helmet and red clothes. Wolverine's older brother, the saber-toothed tiger, a toad whose tongue can extend up to 25 feet, an illusion master who can create illusions, and so on. The Brotherhood of Mutants has gathered a large number of evil mutants. It is indeed not easy for Magneto to be able to control them. Lao Wan looked at Lorna at this time, and only felt that this girl was very similar to himself, and also very similar to one of the wives. He was looking around, and he had long lost sight of how many women there were. But it's like, whether it's the eyes, the nose, or this proud demeanor. Instead of answering Lorna's question, he asked instead, "Kid, what's your name?" Although Lorna was very strange, she still dragged and said, Lorna Dane, remember? Quote. Dan. Magneto closed his eyes and recalled, it seemed that there was a girlfriend who did have this last name. Then he opened his eyes and said, I'm your father, Lorna. Paige suddenly looked at Lorna with wide eyes. seems to want to find blind spots in Lorna. However, Lorna burst out laughing when she heard this. Growing up in an orphanage, she had never experienced the feeling of her parents for so many years, and she felt a trace of family affection in K Chen's body. So she felt like she was suffering from a neuropathy. How does it feel to suddenly jump out of a person and say to you, he is your father? Lorna just wanted to beat him hard. I don't have a father. Therefore, Lorna replied lightly. I'm sorry, kid. Magneto looked at her and said, I was also forced to do so. If I had taken you, you might not have grown this big. Paige kept glancing at the two, and she did feel a little similar. It's just the demeanor of the two. Magneto also gives her a sense of arrogance, as does Lorna. Paige didn't think that Magneto was the mutant boy she had seen in Germany, but that was something that happened in another universe. Lorna immediately laughed when she heard this. Are you crazy? See someone and say it's your child. Yes, Magneto suddenly said lightly. Then whose ability is inherited? Who do you think gave you your gift? With a wave of Magneto's hand, the magnetic field on Lorna's body floated. Lorna knew that Magneto was as capable as herself, but she never thought it was her father. Therefore, her face suddenly became ugly when she heard this. In fact, she had a faint premonition in her heart, but she didn't want to face it. Even if it was her father. Even if you are, I have nothing to do with you for a long time. Lorna said the words with disgust. As an outsider, Paige is not easy to interject. Magneto suddenly softened, looked at Lorna and said, of course it matters. Quote, I need you, Lorna, to come back to me. Everything I have will be yours. You will inherit the crown of the Brotherhood of Mutants and lead the mutants to glory. Human beings have been trampling on our dignity and compressing our living environment. We must resist. Mutant talents are an advanced species in this world. Ordinary people should be eliminated. I'm old, Lorna. The Brotherhood of Mutants needs your lead. Magneto's words were very demagogic, perhaps learned in Germany and mustache, which made the mutants behind him immediately sound enthusiastic. But they didn't echo. Apparently they didn't think that Lorna was a little girl capable of leading the Brotherhood of Mutants. Even if she is Magneto's daughter. Lorna frowned even more when she heard this, and the picture of all these years flashed in her heart. The public opinion caused by Black Phoenix at that time, of course, she still remembered. Human society is indeed very unfriendly to mutants. Captain Carter saw this scene and immediately said, don't be fooled by him, Lorna. Quote, mutants are able to live in harmony with humans, just like our relationship. K Chen will solve all this. Lorna suddenly woke up when she heard this. If there was anyone in this world who was enough to make her believe, it was only K Chen. She could not trust anyone, but she could not trust K Chen. Captain Carter looked at Magneto with hatred. She hated this demagogue the most. At that time, the mustache was because of his outstanding speech ability, which caused how many people fell into trouble. Magneto frowned, looking at Captain Carter very annoyed. He drank very domineeringly, and then directly controlled the vibranium shield in Captain Carter's hand. Captain Carter couldn't catch it for a while, and the shield suddenly flew up, and then smashed towards her. Seeing this, Lorna suddenly had a green light in her hand and blocked the shield. Two almost identical forces suddenly collided. You me. Lorna shouted at Magneto. She didn't allow anyone to hurt someone close to her, even if that person might be her father. But what qualifies a person who abandoned her since childhood to be her father? Does he deserve it? I'll take you away, Magneto suddenly said coldly. He was overbearing, and Lorna didn't agree to snatch it away, believing that Lorna would change her mind. You don't think about it. Lorna suddenly confronted him with a green light in her hands. The two are pulling each other's strength, trying to control each other's magnetic field. Lorna and Magneto Eric's abilities are the same root. At this moment, she also somewhat believed Magneto's words. But she didn't approve of it in her heart. She will not give up the man she has always liked because of a strange father who suddenly appears. Magneto saw Lorna's persistence and was a little angry. This is his daughter, how can she run away with others? He must inherit his family business. I'll make you the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants, Lorna. Magneto spoke, wanting to shake Lorna's heart. But Lorna wasn't interested in the location at all. You give up, I won't go with you. Lorna pushed her hands outward, and the green energy tried to push Magneto away. But this force made Magneto not even shake a bit. Magneto faced her power and praised, "Your talent is very powerful, Lorna. But this power is not enough to see in front of me. Your father will always be your father," Magneto said, directly grabbing it with one hand, and Lorna's body suddenly flew towards him uncontrollably. Lorna suddenly gritted her teeth, and her hands exuded strong power against the ground, before she could barely stabilize her body. Only then will it be able to resist Magneto's controlling forces. Magneto was right, Lorna's power was really not enough in front of him. After all, Lorna's talent was inherited from him, but she did not succeed in being better than the Blue. As a result, Lorna gradually felt powerless. This feeling has not been encountered since her hair turned green. Especially those enemies she encountered, she can play with as she wants. But now it has become a controlled person, what a grievance. Therefore, Lorna directly shouted out, "Ah!" The green light on her body is getting brighter, but the side effects are also obvious. Blood suddenly flowed from her nose, making her look extremely weak. But at this moment, she broke Magneto's control, and with a wave of her hand, Magneto's Edmund metal helmet was almost taken off by her. Lao Wan immediately controlled himself, and he was surprised and delighted by this scene. "I didn't expect Lorna to be able to break through her limits at such a moment. It's really talented. It is worthy of his Magneto species." After the sudden outburst, Lorna also became weaker, but she was already some distance away from Magneto. Seeing this scene, Captain Carter couldn't sit still. She threw away her shield and ran straight towards Magneto. Captain Carter was fast, his legs were strong, and the distance of tens of meters was almost 2 or 3 seconds, but at this moment, the saber-toothed tiger pounced on her. "Your opponent is me." The moment the saber-toothed tiger Victor pounced, his hands suddenly turned into tiger claws, and he wanted to tear Captain Carter at an equally fast speed. Victor, the saber-toothed tiger, has the same self-healing ability and anti-aging ability as Wolverine Logan. Moreover, he is stronger than Wolverine in terms of strength, speed, observation, and perception. But alas, Wolverine has Edmund metal. With the same ability, Wolverine Logan opened up, and the saber-toothed tiger could only fall behind in the fight against Rogan. Captain Carter immediately rolled over, and the saber-toothed tiger's attack was fierce, and it was one move after another. Captain Carter, who had no shield, was suddenly tired of coping and could only keep dodging. The saber-toothed tiger's claws looked so sharp that she didn't want to try them. She was afraid that she would die if she tried. Fortunately, Lorna saw her embarrassment, grabbed the vibranium shield she had thrown aside with her right hand, and flew towards Captain Carter controllably. Captain Carter originally wanted to deal with Magneto, so he threw his shield, but he didn't expect that he couldn't get close to Magneto at all. Phew! The shield flew over, the saber-toothed tiger immediately bent down to dodge, and Captain Carter immediately held it in his hand. Then she didn't pause and threw her shield directly towards the saber-toothed tiger. The saber-toothed tiger didn't expect this, and the vibranium shield suddenly smashed on his head, and it rebounded into Captain Carter's hand with a bang. Taking advantage of the moment he threw his head back, Captain Carter immediately kicked. His whole body was kicked and flew out backwards. That's it. Captain Carter tilted his head. Then, a loud roar sounded, and the red tank like a Han crashed towards her. This frightened Captain Carter immediately raised the shield in his hand. Poof! With the impact of the red tank, her whole person flew out. Red Tank is actually not a mutant in the strict sense, and his energy comes from the demon god Starak of the Crimson Universe. Karma Taj has a magic called the Scarlet Chain of Starak, from whom even mages borrow energy. Starak himself produces a ruby with its own magical powers, and anyone who touches the gem will gain mana to become a red tank. The red tank has infinite power, the limit is unknown, the body is even more invulnerable, and even can heal itself, and can survive without eating, drinking, and breathing. Unfortunately, his brain is not very good. With these powers, he just rammed into people. Because as soon as the red tank began to move in a certain direction, it was almost impossible to stop his movement. Captain Carter's whole person fell more than 10 meters away, but fortunately she was not injured. The vibranium shield absorbs the kinetic energy brought by the impact, and Captain America can land safely by jumping down dozens of floors above the shield building, relying on the absorption of kinetic energy by vibranium. She immediately got up from the ground, holding a shield, and there was no way to face the powerful red tank. On the other side, Magneto looked at Lorna, who was stubbornly resisting, and immediately made a look at the illusion master on the side. The illusion master nodded and immediately used his abilities. His power, like his nickname, is an illusion. His name is Jason Wingard, and he can create illusions by making others feel people or things that do not exist from sight, touch, hearing, smell, and taste. This has a bit of a telepathic-like mutant ability. Of course, it is completely incomparable to telepathy. Those who have telepathy are powerful mutants. Professor X, White Queen, Phoenix Girl, Spirit Butterfly. It seems that some strange person mixed in. In the comics, Magneto asks the Illusion Master to use his ability to rewrite the memory of Polaris Lorna. Makes Lorna think that her parents died in a plane crash as a baby. Lorna can be more immersed in the cause of the Brotherhood of Mutants. Lao Wan's thinking is an extreme, and he can do whatever it takes for the cause of mutants. The reason why he came to find Lorna was also because of Lorna's strong strength. If Lorna's mutant ability wasn't as powerful as it is now, he wouldn't have come to look for his relatives at all. After all, he is not Wanda the Scarlet Witch. So, in order to make Lorna obedient, what is it to use some means? The Master of Illusions immediately began to create illusions. In the courtyard, the figure of K Chen suddenly walked in. Lorna, K Chen shouted at Lorna. Lorna suddenly looked at K Chen unsteadily, and was instantly surprised. "You're back. Hurry up and help us." Quote, K Chen is finally back. No, Lorna. Thinking of it, K Chen shook his head directly. He is your father, haven't you always said that you miss your parents? If you're going to go with him, I won't stop you. Lorna's heart instantly fell to the bottom. She looked at K Chen incredulously. Don't you love me? She just wants to be with K Chen, and nothing else matters. Therefore, she looked at K Chen with a pair of eyes. K Chen's expression was a little complicated. I love you, but I can't stop you from getting back together with your family. Lorna shook her head in disbelief, as if there were signs of madness. But at this time, Captain Carter saw the clue. The Illusion Master's illusion is real, but he has not seen K Chen with his own eyes. How real can it be? Lorna, don't be deceived, K Chen is not wearing this dress today. Captain Carter's words immediately reminded Lorna, and her mind instantly flashed what K Chen was wearing today. K Chen has long been accustomed to wearing formal clothes, especially becoming the White Queen of the Hellfire Club, and gradually has the style of a successful person. Where else do you wear casually like in front of you? The devil is in the details. The K Chen created by the Illusion Master suddenly panicked. What are you talking about? I'm not K Chen, and who is it? However, at this time, K Chen had already appeared in front of the Illusion Master, and he directly pinched the Illusion Master's neck and slowly lifted the Illusion Master from the ground. The illusion was instantly shattered, and the real K Chen looked around. Then he looked at Magneto and said, "You, don't mess with me." Quote, after K Chen dealt with Little Pepper, he wanted to drive to May again to exchange skills, but I haven't seen it for more than a year. May is when the drought is long, and he has endless strength. But it was at this time that he received news from the White Queen. Magneto immediately set out to find Lorna. Although I don't know what Magneto wants to do, this act of stealing the house made K Chen extremely angry. So he teleported, returned home, and then saw this scene. With the help of telepathy, he instantly knew that it was the Master of Illusions who was doing ghosts. Hence the current scene. He grabbed the Phantom Master's neck, lifted him up from the ground, and then said lightly to Magneto, "You, don't mess with me." Quote, the thing that people regret the most in the world is probably to provoke someone who shouldn't be provoked. Magneto didn't know how strong K Chen's strength was, so he rashly came to act domineeringly, which had already angered K Chen. You are K Chen. I just came to take my daughter. Quote, Magneto is still very tough and very domineering. You will take a corpse with you, K Chen said with a sneer. Then he looked at the Illusion Master who was about to break his breath in his hand. Of course, he would not let him die so cheaply. The Master of Illusions dared to use his visions to bully Lorna. Lorna's psychology is already a little fragile, and once she is really fooled, I am afraid that it will be directly blackened. One thing is to say, Marvel's women are extremely terrifying to blacken. Black Phoenix, Scarlet Witch. They can easily destroy the world and do whatever they want. A single sentence can determine the survival of a race, and it is easy to modify reality. No one knows what Lorna will look like when she blackens. In short, blackening is 10 times stronger, whitewashing is 3 points weaker. At this time, the illusion master still wanted to deceive K Chen with illusions, but K Chen had telepathy, and this trick was completely ineffective against him. He said to the master of illusions, "Look me in the eye. I declare that you are guilty." The illusion master looked at K Chen in horror. He watched K Chen's eyes slowly turn scarlet, and then endless flames emerged. Along with K Chen's hideous smile and defiant laughter, the manic hot gaze directly erupted and judged the eyes of the illusion master. The illusion master's eyes were instantly melted by the heat vision, which was controlled by K Chen and suddenly poured into his brain. Ah! The illusion master was not dead for a while, and he felt as if his head was stirred by a giant in the brain pulp. It wasn't until there was nothing in his head that his body softened and was thrown to the ground by K Chen. The heat vision can be adjusted at will, and the motherland even uses it to warm milk. Master of illusions, pawn. Seeing K Chen's violence, someone suddenly swallowed his saliva. The saber-toothed tiger that got up from the ground suddenly felt bad and immediately wanted to escape. He hasn't done anything since joining the Brotherhood of Mutants, he just wants to get Wolverine into trouble. As for the change in the status of the mutant, what does it have to do with him? Therefore, he naturally did not want to fight hard for Magneto. But as soon as he moved, K Chen looked at him. "Come on, don't think about leaving," K Chen said lightly. The hands were instantly folded, and then slowly unfolded. A new world seemed to be under his control. The whole world changed colors, the earth and buildings began to turn upside down, and he was transformed as he wished. The saber-toothed tiger had already run away in an instant, but a giant pit suddenly appeared in front of him. The whole earth seemed to collapse. But of course he would not stop. His limbs turned into tiger claws, and he directly jumped forward with all his strength. He jumped far, as if it was tens of meters, but just when he was about to land, the ground in front of him also collapsed, and he suddenly fell. I don't know where I fell into this space. But K Chen knew that he would definitely not be able to get out. Roar! The angry red tank saw this scene and directly crashed towards K Chen. It was as if he had practiced the Iron Head skill, and he wanted to smash K Chen directly. K Chen didn't like this kind of recklessness, and as soon as his hand was raised, a wall immediately protruded on the ground, blocking the red tank. Chapter 71. Boom! The power of the red tank is truly incomparable. He is an existence that can compete with the Hulk for strength, although every time the Hulk has the upper hand, but there are not many who can harden the Hulk several times. The red tank instantly shattered the raised wall, as if he could not be stopped. It's like a crazy bull, and if he recognizes K Chen, a reddened guy, he is going to crash to death. Whatever appeared in front of him, it would be smashed head-on. Seeing this, Captain Carter wanted to throw the vibranium shield to K Chen, because it can absorb the kinetic energy brought by the impact. But before she could lose it, she was targeted by a toad on the side. Seeing that he could not escape, Toad naturally did not sit still, but wanted to capture Captain Carter as a hostage. But he underestimated Captain Carter's strength. His tongue stretched out very long, but Captain Carter directly raised the shield in his hand and slashed it fiercely according to his tongue. Ah! The toad yelled, and his entire tongue was cut off. The vibranium shield can even cut off Captain Carter's waist, let alone a tongue. Captain Carter frowned in disgust, and a shield flung over, directly towards the toad's neck. Nope. The toad, who was in pain, felt the sharp sound of the wind, saw the vibranium shield flying over, and immediately muttered a word. Subsequently, the vibranium shield directly cut his head off. As casual as chopping vegetables, his head flew directly to Magneto's feet, and he looked at Lao Wan with wide eyes. The vibranium shield flew into Captain Carter's hand at a geometric angle, and her expression did not change in the slightest. Captain Carter is not a virgin, and he has no psychological burden on killing. There were deaths at every moment during World War II, and she couldn't have any psychological problems of not killing. When she destroyed the Hydra base, she didn't know how much blood was stained in her hands. Captain Carter was more decisive than anyone. Meanwhile, the red tank had also rushed in front of K Chen. Captain Carter knew how powerful the red tank was, and when he saw that K Chen did not dodge, he immediately wanted to exclaim. At this moment, K Chen had already moved. I saw K Chen raise his hand and clench it tightly into a fist. It looked like it was swung from back to front with great force. Serious punch. K Chen's painting style seemed to be sharp, and his scalp was faintly painful, but an unparalleled power was also revealed. Poof! K Chen's fist slammed into the iron head of the red tank. Suddenly, there was a sound of metal clashing. His hand seemed to be slightly damaged, but it instantly returned to its original state. A mortal body not only makes him immortal, but also has a strong self-healing factor, and the injury recovers extremely quickly. It's just that the pain is still there. And under this punch, the red tank suddenly stopped in place. His unrivaled strength met the enemy at this moment, and his unstoppable steps also stopped for physical reasons. K Chen's fist seemed to exude a powerful fist wind, so that the airflow around his body changed. The next moment, red tank's body shook a little, then tilted crookedly to the side. Boom! The huge body smashed to the ground, and the helmet on his head suddenly fell apart. Click! With a soft sound, countless cracks appeared, and the helmet that did not know what material was completely turned into pieces. The red tank himself fainted directly. Red tank's head is his weak point, and wearing a helmet has the same effect as Magneto, fearing being controlled by Professor X. Other mutants who want to win the red tank do their best to remove his helmet and then defeat him with telepathic abilities. Only K Chen, in his brainless rush, can knock him unconscious with one punch. Even the Hulk couldn't do it. The Hulk just threw the red tank out. K Chen looked at Magneto. Now there is only Lao Wan. Magneto said he was panicking. He brought with him the backbone of the Brotherhood of Mutants, and he was killed so easily. Although the ability of the Illusion Master is not as good as telepathy, it is no longer common. It's the same with Toads. As a result, one was directly killed by K Chen, and the other was cut off with a shield by Captain Carter. The saber-toothed tiger also did not know where it was held. The red tank was directly knocked unconscious by a punch. What is this situation? This simply shocked Magneto's lifelong belief. He always thought that mutant talents were new humans, and ordinary people were to be eliminated by humans. As a result, K Chen made him unable to see through. At the beginning, when K Chen used heat vision, he thought that K Chen was a mutant, but K Chen's ability was too much. If the mutants were as powerful as K Chen, then the mutants would have ruled the world long ago. So how can such a person be a mutant? What do you want to do? K Chen looked at Magneto and asked. He was still a little curious about what Lao Wan wanted to do to take Lorna. Magneto forced himself to calm down at this time and said, I want Lorna to inherit everything from me. I'm old, the Brotherhood of Mutants needs a leader, and Lorna can do it. Oh, when K Chen heard this, he immediately said with disdain, don't say that Lorna doesn't want to become the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants. Even if she does, such a weak organization can't do anything. Quote, with something you haven't done in your life, are you going to let Lorna go to waste for the rest of your life? The White Queen was also a radical at first, but slowly changed her mind, which is why the Hellfire Club became like this. Especially after the death of the Black King. Seeing the Black Queen, the White Queen understood that mutants could not become masters. The Black Queen has lived for so many years without doing it, how can other mutants succeed? And what the Black Queen wants is still very simple, she just wants to become a god herself, and the Black Queen of other mutants does not care. But even this goal, thousands of years of hard work have not succeeded. You're not a mutant and won't understand all this. Magneto said, directly controlling everything he could and threw it towards K Chen. Lorna waved her hand to block, but was stopped by K Chen raising her hand. Take a break, darling. K Chen said softly to Lorna. Lorna suddenly felt extremely warm, and her body fell to the side a little weakly. Fortunately, the thick Captain Carter supported her in time. Lorna was able to withstand Magneto for a while, and it was already a mutant ability outbreak. K Chen raised his head, and the powerful heat vision suddenly destroyed everything in sight. Then as soon as he raised his hand, he could immediately grab control with Magneto. This is the mirror space, which is equivalent to his home field, and can control everything. No one knows how Doctor Strange was trapped by the little spider. Geometry is a fart in the face of magic. Magneto controlled the magnetic field, and everything in the mirror space was destroyed by him in an instant. Of course, this does not break up the mirror space. Unless he had energy more powerful than K Chen, he would be able to break this magic. Or wait for K Chen to lift this magic himself. The entire mirror space was destroyed by Magneto, and all the items seemed to float. But Magneto found that he couldn't capture where K Chen was. His vision was obscured by the objects in front of him. When K Chen appeared, he directly appeared behind him. Magneto only felt a hand on his head. K Chen wanted to take off his Edmund metal helmet. Magneto immediately took control of the helmet. But I feel empty under my feet. The momentary feeling of weightlessness made him fall down, and although he immediately stabilized his body with his ability, he found that the metal helmet had been taken away by K Chen. Since you want Lorna to inherit everything from you, give this thing to her too. K Chen said to Magneto and threw the helmet directly to Lorna. Lorna took it and put it directly on her head. In this telepathic world, enemies are simply defenseless. And with this helmet, Lorna doesn't have to be afraid of being controlled by her enemies. Black King Shao has such a powerful mutant ability, all of them died of mind control, which shows the perversion of the mind. Moreover, Magneto's helmet is not only able to isolate telepathy, but also enhances his own mutant abilities. It's an effect with Professor X's super brawn device. Lorna suddenly felt that her mutant ability had improved a lot. Magneto looked at all this and suddenly became a little decadent. Once again, he had the idea that he was completely old. Although he said this before, he never felt like he couldn't do it anymore. I want to take Lorna, but also to train her, and when Magneto dies one day, Lorna will naturally take the throne. But now, Lorna snatched it all away. Therefore, he watched K Chen and Lorna walk in front of him, but he was already indifferent. The land under K Chen and Lorna's feet connected and turned into a road leading directly to Magneto. This ability to modify reality at will is really terrifying. Just like Scarlet Witch, Wanda can seal Black Bolt's mouth at will. Wanda, I heard that you have good sound waves. What are you going to do with him? K Chen looked at Lorna and asked. After all, Magneto is most likely Lorna's father, and K Chen can't kill Magneto directly. That's too ruthless. The reason why he defeated Magneto so easily was because his body was too fragile. K Chen's ability made Lao Wan realize that if K Chen wanted to kill him, it was the same as playing. Plus the helmet was snatched away, and there was no resistance. Wearing a metal helmet, Lorna looked at Magneto, raised her hand, and the green light flashed for a long time, but did not kill Magneto. This was her father after all, although Lorna hated him immensely. But if she really wanted to kill Magneto with her own hands, she couldn't do it. So, she looked at K Chen and said, I won't kill him. It's all up to you. K Chen didn't care. Although Magneto is a seen person, even now he has an unyielding look. Just now, Lorna was about to kill him, and she didn't even blink her eyelids. I want to master the Brotherhood of Mutants. Lorna continued. Let him manage it for me. She said, pointing at Magneto. Lorna still didn't say the word father, because she sensed that Magneto had a weak idea of her, and came to her to take advantage of her. If Lorna hadn't shown this talent, Magneto might not have thought of her. From this point of view, Magneto and K Chen are the same people. It's just that the pursuit of the two is different. Magneto fights for mutants, and K Chen is for his own happiness. Finally came to the Marvel world, can't you enjoy it? Coming here and going to fight and kill was simply boring in K Chen's opinion. He just wants to make more friends, and pretend to be more than that, and there is no idea of saving the world. Even if he has this ability. Good. K Chen nodded. Then he looked at Magneto threateningly. His voice appeared directly in Magneto's heart. I know what you're thinking, unless you can find another helmet, you can try it. K Chen looked at Magneto, and the two communicated in their hearts. Magneto was suddenly shocked. He didn't expect that K Chen still had telepathic abilities. Telepathy is an extremely rare ability among mutants. Anyone with this ability can become strong. Even the three Cuckoo sisters made by the White Queens, Egg Cell, are powerful mutants. Therefore, Lao Wan suddenly said, I agreed. Quote, there was some humiliation in his heart. Inexplicably, I have to work for my daughter. But who wants to die to be alive? Lorna nodded in satisfaction and said, then go and see my kingdom. I don't know why, K Chen always felt that Lorna had become a little domineering. In fact, Lorna is very much like Magneto, and Magneto is not mistaken about her. Lorna does have the ability to lead mutants. Her body has a domineering attitude, and her temperament is even more arrogant. At this time, she took the lead, and she really looked like a queen. K Chen lifted the mirror space, and everyone came out of the mirror space. Paige followed behind them. The saber-toothed tiger fell directly to the ground, and he seemed to fall into an endless abyss in the mirror space, falling all the way down. Now this endless torment is finally over. The red tank got up from the ground. The boss has already changed. Even if he is stupid, he knows that he can't do it. Magneto looked at everyone and felt a little sad. But still take Lorna and they head towards the place of the Brotherhood of Mutants. The location of the Brotherhood of Mutants always changes, and there are other mutants besides those he takes with him. Soon, everyone arrived at a private location. The mutants inside saw Magneto returning, and thought they had won. As a result, I saw Lorna coming in from behind, wearing a helmet. What's going on? Numerous mutants looked at Lorna and Magneto. Isn't the helmet Magneto's? Lorna said directly with a smile on the corner of her mouth. From now on, I will be the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants, who approves and who opposes. Her hands were glowing green, and almost everything was manipulated by her. Lao Wan's helmet has brought a big increase to her mutant ability, no wonder Magneto always wears it. Isolation from psychic abilities is just one of them. All the mutants stood in place at once, seeing that Magneto took the lead in choosing submission, and everyone followed suit. Lorna seems to have found a new hobby. She still had a faint idea in her heart that she wanted to lead the mutants to become different. Magneto gave her the stage. K Chen didn't know what to say, he couldn't hit Lorna, right? After taking control of the Brotherhood of Mutants, all Lorna had to do was find more mutants. In this world, there are still many mutants. It's just that when they don't show mutant abilities, they are just like ordinary people. Showing ability means being treated as an outlier, and many people have to make a trade-off. Therefore, such mutants are hidden among humans and are difficult to find. Fortunately, some mutant abilities are specifically looking for mutants. For example, Lingdi's employer, Caliban at the beginning, his ability is to specifically find mutants, so he needs Lingdi as a thug. But the mutants who have this ability are also a minority. Fortunately, there is one in the Brotherhood of Mutants. But she had to be close to be able to notice. K Chen didn't care how Lorna played. He wasn't interested in saving a race, not to mention he wasn't a mutant. His life was back to leisurely. It is worth saying that after I don't know how long, a streamer appeared in the sky. Captain Marvel, who had not returned to Earth for a long time, quietly returned. And she found K Chen directly. At this time, K Chen was driving May and Peter out shopping. Stopping the car, I saw Captain Marvel looking at him with his hands folded. I haven't seen you in a few years, the children are so old. Captain Marvel Carol looked at K Chen and May, as well as Peter Parker that May was holding in her hand. This is May, my girlfriend. K Chen coughed twice and said. Fortunately, his relationship with Captain Marvel is only a relatively close comrade in arms, and Captain Marvel Carol is not possessive, so he did not say anything. This is Carol. K Chen breathed a sigh of relief and introduced the two. Hello, May. Hello. May freed up a hand to shake Carol's hand. Carol is an old friend of mine and has known each other for many years. K Chen said. If you think about it, I've known Carol for 8 years. Well, the memories of the two are still stuck 8 years ago. No wonder Carol is back. Being able to endure for so long is also amazing. May saw that the relationship between the two was somewhat abnormal. It was a fool who could see that Carol's gaze towards K Chen was about to burst into flames, and he couldn't wait to knock him down now. But Meiji didn't say anything more, but remained silent. K Chen had already said that he and Carol were old friends, and they must have known each other before they met. And there is already a relationship. Unexpectedly, Carol came to him again. May's heart was suddenly very entangled. K Chen pinched her and said, let's go shopping together. Carol heard this and followed. Anyway, she came back for vacation, it doesn't matter what she does. And she hasn't been back to Earth for a long time, and she feels that the Earth has changed a lot. May had to follow K Chen, and the three of them went shopping in the supermarket together. Americans generally buy a lot of things when shopping, because large supermarkets are generally a little far from home. If you don't want to drive far away to buy something every time, the best way is to stock up. After all, there is no commissary. One more Carol, one more coolie. Carol didn't care, the weight of this thing seemed nothing to her. It's just that May feels that Carol's uniform is a little strange. How do you dress like this? After the two got acquainted, in order to ease the embarrassment, May also asked. Because she likes cuz, K Chen said with a smile. Carol also smiled and admitted. May doesn't know what Carol cuz is. Carol at this time has changed from a few years ago, she has become thinner, and she has short blonde hair, and her uniform is more close-fitting. Peter Parker was curious about Carol and kept his eyes on Carol's uniform. It was as if his little head was thinking that if only he could wear this uniform in the future. Later, Carol followed K Chen and they returned to May's house. When he arrived downstairs at May's, K Chen grabbed May's hand and said, May. May looked at him and opened his mouth, and then acquiesced, everything I borrowed will be taken back. Don't worry, there are borrows and repayments. Carol, who was sitting in the back, said very openly. I won't be here for long. Hearing this, May finally got out of the car with a red face. Her hand holding Peter Parker trembled a little, and she knew that once she accepted this time, she would be completely unable to get rid of it. Who knows if K Chen has any other old friends besides Carol? However, let May leave K Chen, can she do it? When she was in the car, May didn't speak all the way, just thinking about this problem. In the end, she found out that without K Chen, she would be single for the rest of her life. Having seen such an excellent man, how can he still look at other smelly fish and rotten shrimp? If I have not seen the light, then I can tolerate the darkness. May was extremely complicated and hurried upstairs with Peter Parker in her arms. K Chen was also a little sorry when he looked at her back. He originally treated May as an outhouse, just like Kanaya Zhao, and did not let her see his other women. But unexpectedly, Carol came directly to him. This caught K Chen off guard. But it doesn't seem to be a bad thing either. May's mood was complicated, and she slowly accepted it after a few days. K Chen is very experienced in this and must learn to pull. But Carol also had to be penalized. Carol came to the co-pilot and said with a smile, this is your little girlfriend. Looks pretty good. HMPH, don't do this next time. K Chen snorted coldly, and this time I will also punish you. Quote. Oh, Carol looked at K Chen and smiled, how do you punish me? You'll find out later, K Chen said with a smile. Carol defiantly said, have you forgotten that you are not my opponent? Who lost so thoroughly last time? Presumptuous, you said it was the last time. K Chen couldn't help but drink. He was going to teach this arrogant woman a good lesson. There is nothing he can't solve yet. Pulled Carol directly to the nearest hotel without going to the previous favorite one. Opening the room, K Chen was directly pushed in by Carol. After not seeing each other for 7 or 8 years, Carol was much more anxious than him. And with her strength, K Chen couldn't resist yet. This iron-headed skill can crash all the space battleships, who dares to fight her. However, K Chen smiled, and an extra lasso that exuded a golden glow appeared in his hand. The man who sets the horse is so unyielding. You are stronger than before, Carol said, looking at the weak K Chen. But still not my opponent. Carol smiled confidently. K Chen gritted his teeth, but he really couldn't help her. Using the lasso of mantra, Carol is more courageous. How long have you been on Earth? Soon, a few days at most. Carol looked straight at K Chen. Finished. K Chen's heart was sudden, this must not become a human being. A few days later Carol left. She left more refreshed than before, walked to the balcony and flew away. K Chen took a good rest and recuperated for a while. A Carol is so fierce. What about Wonder Woman and Superwoman? These two are a demigod and a Kryptonian. That must not be directly killed. But, I really want to try it. I hope I will die if I don't try. During the period of K Chen's recuperation, he did not go to May again, as if he had forgotten May. It wasn't until a month later that May called him. Don't you have to pay back what you borrowed? May's tone was cold. She was extremely entangled in this month, and she wanted to cut off the connection with K Chen countless times and cut off K Chen in two. But he is in a relationship with himself and he lent him out. May felt like she was going crazy. So she waited for K Chen to apologize to her, but K Chen seemed to forget her. May felt that she was focusing on her work, but she found that she could not do it at all. As soon as he relaxed, he recalled the bits and pieces of himself and K Chen in his mind, and their incomparable love. So that later I couldn't concentrate at work, and all I thought about was K Chen. She is obviously not a love brain. Why is this? It turns out that women who can deal rationally with feelings are a minority, and women themselves are emotional. So she tortured herself like this for a month, and May finally compromised. Received the call. K Chen knew that he had won. He really is a scumbag. The borrowed thing is already downstairs in the owner's house. K Chen came downstairs of May's house with a teleportation. At this time, May opened the window and sure enough saw K Chen standing downstairs. May burst into tears. Month's thoughts suddenly turned into tears, and all the complaints and unwillingness passed away with the wind. May decided to forgive him. She immediately rushed downstairs and threw herself into K Chen's arms. I thought you weren't coming back. I'm waiting for you to change your mind. K Chen hugged her and said, "You fool." Of course May knew that he was doing it on purpose, just to make her soft. But May has completely lost and doesn't care about winning or losing. This kind of thing is the case. Whoever submits softly first, who will always be at a disadvantage. So sometimes you miss it and don't take it too seriously. Women like to be cold, and the more enthusiastic you are, the more she thinks you are licking a dog. The more cold you are, she can't help but pester you. People are like this, and things that are easy to get are not too cherished. K Chen knew that from this moment on, May's body and mind were her own, and she would never betray herself. After all, even lending can be forgiven, what else cannot be forgiven? Since then, May has also become more submissive to K Chen, which can be said to be obedient. Sometimes just let go of the defense line and the whole defense line will completely collapse. And people are getting more and more greedy. Just like that. Let them an inch and they want the whole kingdom. So either stick to the bottom line or there is no bottom line. Months later, Tony Stark finally remembered about K Chen. He asked Pepper to come to K Chen and tell him that the artificial intelligence was ready. K Chen drove back to Stark Group with Pepper and experienced the feeling of driving a Ferrari with one hand. Almost got ticketed by the traffic police. Many traffic police in the United States like to fish for law enforcement, hide in the shadows, and immediately rush out when they see something illegal. They almost landed. Fortunately, he has good car skills and a stable mentality. Pepper did not show him the way, got out of the car and left quickly. K Chen got on the elevator by himself. Sir, Miss Pepper seems a little unusual. The top floor, Jarvis reminded Tony. Women, there are always a few days in a month that are not normal. Tony didn't think much about it. He couldn't have an idea about Pepper. Of course he knew that Pepper was very close to K Chen, and it was likely that he had been in contact with negative distance. So he didn't want to be a fellow traveler with K Chen. When K Chen came up to the top floor, Tony smiled. Jarvis, turn on the lights. This time there was finally no problem with the lighting. After a period of repair, Jarvis became smarter. He even allowed Jarvis to learn and evolve on his own. Which is why Jarvis is different from other ice. Sometimes Jarvis will even have emotions, like humans. Tony is really someone cursed by knowledge. What about my stuff? K Chen is already familiar with him and is not pretentious. Stark Tower has the feeling of being at the top of the mountain. He walked to the window and looked outside, feeling very comfortable. I already have a clue about the sub-munition you said last time. Tony said with a smile, smug for a moment. Then took something like a chip out of the drawer. This is what you want. Oh, K Chen was very interested and immediately took it in his hand. The two of them are making some kind of secret transaction. I don't know what I thought it was. How to use it? K Chen asked. Plug it into your home computer and it will be able to take over all the electronic programs and items in your home. Tony said with a smile. Although this artificial intelligence is not as good as Jarvis, it also takes him a lot of time. At least 2 cover girls were missed. What's its name? K Chen couldn't wait when he heard this. Technology is always full of expectations. Especially men, have no resistance to high technology at all. It's your thing, I didn't name it. Tony said with a smile. K Chen breathed a sigh of relief, he thought Tony would give it a boring name. Tony's naming ability has to be complained about. Such as the Friday after Jarvis, which he smoked casually. Apparently from Monday to weekend, he made all one, the naming ability is worrying. If it's okay, then I'll go back. K Chen can't wait to go back and try it. Mainly it is not interesting to stay with Tony, an old man, all in his 30s, not eye-catching at all. One more thing, very important. What's going on? K Chen stopped leaving. Tony poured K Chen a glass of wine. He is a person who likes wine, and the price of fine wine in his collection is not cheap, and he generally does not take it out for people to drink. Tony is a man who knows how to enjoy life. K Chen took it, although he didn't like to drink very much, but he would not refuse expensive wine. Who doesn't want to drink good wine? After taking a sip, he listened to Tony say, "There is a cosmic storm that will pass near the Earth, and those people in the White House were planning a flight to get close to the cosmic storm in outer space. You know, it takes a lot of money, so those people cut the budget, and the flight is obviously unrealistic." And then, K Chen asked, "But the doctor in charge of this program was not willing, he came to Start Group and wanted us to invest in them." When Tony said this, he was completely careless and very disdainful. Obviously, just like the desperate virus, he also did not see the flight plan this time. Tony Stark is an extremely proud person, even to the point of conceit, a little empty-eyed. Sure enough, he immediately said disdainfully, "Please, we are an arms group, not an airline. And if I want to study that cosmic storm, I don't need to cooperate with anyone else at all." The latter sentence is Tony's point. To let him cooperate with others, there is a feeling of insulting him. Even if it's just a contribution. For example, the desperate virus, he can easily perfect the desperate virus by himself, and he can also crack it. Then the desperate virus was thrown into the trash heap by him. Tony's pride made him not accept the cooperation of others. Unless that person is as smart as he is. "Oh, I trust you, Tony." K Chen is not interested in any cosmic storm, and he is not an astronomer. So he followed Tony's words. Tony just needs to be coaxed. As long as he gets his way, then it's okay to say anything. "Then why are you telling me about it?" K Chen then asked. Just then, Jarvis reminded, "Sir, the lady is here again." Tony smiled and said, "That guy sent someone to talk about investment again. You know, I'm a person who can't bear to refuse beautiful women, and you're so ruthless than me, so I'm going to leave it to you to deal with." Tony winked at K Chen and smiled. If you can't resist the temptation, you can also invest money. K Chen was suddenly speechless. Isn't it not good looking? Fart, even I don't dare to see her, can it be ugly? Tony said suddenly. I was afraid that I would be fooled when I saw her, and I didn't want to give up a forest for a tree. Quote. Oh, how did K Chen feel unbelievable? Believe me, the woman will discharge. Tony put his arm around K Chen's shoulders and came to the elevator together. Jarvis, let her wait in the reception room, Mr. K Chen will go over immediately. I'll give you a lung. Susan Stone was taken to the reception room by Stark Group employees. She was ready for a long wait. Tony Stark, this playboy, heard that there is no belt at all, but he didn't dare to see her every time. Although Susan wasn't going to do anything, but Reed's guy, obviously knowing that Tony had a bad reputation, actually let her come over. Didn't this push her into the fire pit? If it weren't for Susan's interest in Reed, I'm afraid she would have turned around and left. But despite this, she still has a little resentment towards Reed. She felt that Reed didn't care about her at all, and only cared about his own career. Women like men's careers, but they don't like men who only have careers. While Susan was thinking about it, the door to the reception room was opened from outside. Susan immediately stood up and said, "Mr. Stark. I'm not Tony." K Chen looked at the woman in front of him and was a little surprised. Tony didn't lie to him. The woman in front of her had silky blonde hair, just reaching her arms, slightly curly. The eyes are black pupils, and even the facial features are very soft, not as three-dimensional as other white women. Her appearance is more in line with the aesthetics of Orientals, and it should be said that the East and the West kill each other. But K Chen still kept a straight face. Susan also looked at K Chen in surprise. It was not Tony. "Hello, sir. My name is Susan, Susan Stone." However, she still stretched out her hand to greet K Chen. After all, she came to ask for money, and her posture could be lowered as low as she could. K Chen's expression did not soften. He stretched out his hand and shook her, and then let go directly. "I'm K Chen, and Tony asked me to handle this." This made Susan a little disappointed, and for the first time she had some doubts about her charm. K Chen and Tony are very different. The last time Tony saw her, he didn't hide it, and his eyes almost straightened, but Susan used some means, and Tony didn't dare to see her again. And this time, K Chen didn't even look at it twice. This sense of gap, however, when she heard K Chen's name, she reacted quickly. Reed asked her to come to the Stark Group to ask for money, and naturally she did some work. K Chen is one of the major shareholders of Stark Group, more than Howard's old friend Obadiah. To be able to get him is to get Tony Stark. Susan instantly gained confidence. "I wonder how Mr. K Chen thinks about it." Susan immediately sat opposite K Chen, and then showed a sweet smile. She seems to discharge when she laughs, and her smile is very sweet, and her heart is very refreshed. I just listened to Tony's rough words, but K Chen was not attracted by her smile, but just smiled contemptuously. "With all due respect, this kind of project is difficult to interest Stark Group." Susan was not in a hurry when she heard this. She was a high-achieving student, a doctor like Reed, and had a high IQ. She knows that this is a negotiation technique. Whether the other party is interested, who will put it on the face. "I believe that Mr. K Chen will definitely be interested after carefully understanding our project." The smile on her face remained unchanged, as if she wanted to sweeten K Chen. If she goes to run for Miss America, the ranking will definitely not be low. With K Chen's current experience, just by looking at it, Susan's height is about 168, and her weight does not exceed 110 pounds at most, which is extremely good. "Oh," K Chen said casually. "A project like yours, Tony and I can complete it with just a little time. Why waste money and time on you? It's just that we're not interested." When Susan heard this, the corners of her mouth twitched. Tony was able to complete the project, she believed. After all, the talent is obvious to all. K Chen, it's just money. However, Susan did not complain, but the smile on her face remained. K Chen looked at it and felt that this woman was so tolerable. It turns out that women endure dozens of times more than men. Susan smiled and said, "It is precisely because Mr. K Chen is very busy that we can help you complete this project on your behalf." K Chen and her looked at each other, and Susan's smile remained unchanged. She looked at K Chen and seemed to really not have the slightest interest in her. This frustrated her even more. After a while, K Chen seemed to be finally moved by her, and said a little impatiently, "Give you 5 minutes, if you can't convince me, this project." He said and shook his head. The meaning was understood. Susan's heart suddenly felt a little cold. It seems that the Stark Group really can't see this project. But the necessary effort is needed. She immediately sorted out her language and spoke, "Mr. K Chen, we are very sincere. If Stark Group invests, we will get all the benefits. Quote, we will have a lot of celestial data from cosmic storms, and even be able to crack the secrets of human genetic inheritance, and when the time comes, we can benefit the whole society. Of course, Stark Group will also make a steady stream of money." Susan knew exactly what these capitalists wanted. Don't talk to them about what benefits society, they just want money. As long as it is profitable, they will continue to invest. But unfortunately, K Chen was still unmoved. "What you said is all up to your own conjecture. What if it fails? What if there is no data?" K Chen shook his head and said, "I'm sorry, Ms. Susan, we can't agree to your request." After he said that, he stood up directly. Susan was very unwilling, but she could only stand up with it. "Mr. K Chen, listen to me again. Susan and K Chen shook hands politely and immediately chased after them. I'm sorry. K Chen shook his head and said, if it is really a good project, how can others withdraw investment? After that, K Chen entered the elevator without looking back. Susan couldn't keep up, and could only sigh helplessly. Stark Group is so rich that it is unwilling, and other companies are less likely to be interested. What she didn't know was that K Chen entered the elevator and immediately shouted, Jarvis. Yes, sir. Jarvis replied immediately. Although K Chen is not Tony, he also has permission to command it. Moreover, Jarvis controls the entire Stark Group. As long as there are electronics, networks, it is very terrifying. Send me the details of Susan Stone. K Chen only glanced at it casually just now, but he didn't expect that Tony really didn't lie to him. The main thing, of course, was that he already recognized who Susan really was. She is the invisible woman of the future. With this layer of identity, K Chen naturally played a trick. Men chasing women must not show their intentions. If you let the other person know that you are interested in her, then you are miserable. Learn to pull. It's already delivered to your phone, sir. In just a split second, Jarvis sent Susan's details. K Chen opened it and saw that sure enough, this Susan was the later invisible woman. Because she is actually working for a rich second generation named Victor Von Doom, and the partner is Mr. Fantastic Reed. The relationship is complicated, and Susan has always been a little interesting to Reed, but Reed is a nerd. Susan graduated from Dr. Susan. It was the age of beautiful flowers, and K Chen naturally couldn't let her wither. Protecting flowers is everyone's responsibility. Susan was very upset, and she had some resentment against Reed, feeling that it was impossible to succeed, but Reed let her hit a wall. Women are very unreasonable. Even Susan, if she fails, she will definitely buckle the pot on Reed. And she was already a little angry with Reed now, still single. And that K Chen, he actually put on a stinky face. An angry Susan thought to herself. It was also the first time she had met a man who was so cold to her. Out of the Stark building, Susan still felt a little unlucky. Her tire actually blew out. She kicked the tire of the car angrily and was about to go out to get a taxi, but she couldn't stop the taxi. Just when she felt like she was about to collapse, a Ford pulled up in front of her. Ms. Susan, are you waiting for the car? Rolling down the window, it turned out to be K Chen inside. Susan took a deep breath and barely showed a sweet smile and said, Yes, Mr. K Chen, my car tire is broken. Then get in the car, I'll give you a ride. K Chen sent out an invitation, and his expression was not as cold as in the Stark Group. At this moment, Susan was slightly moved. When she was so unlucky, K Chen was like an angel. She decisively opened the co-pilot's door, got in the car and closed the door. Susan, who got into the car, was a little restrained, but still said, Isn't Mr. K Chen not interested in the project? Public is public, private is private. K Chen smiled and said, I'm not interested in the project, but I also don't want a beautiful lady to wait anxiously all the time. Susan felt some joy when she heard this. Perhaps it was K Chen's unreasonable look towards her before that stimulated her, and she was happier to hear K Chen's praise than the praise of others. Where do you live? K Chen asked. I live on Long Island. Such a coincidence. K Chen was surprised. He already knew that Susan was from Long Island, and he had lived here since birth. Mr. K Chen also lives in that area. Yes. Susan found that the two were so coincidental, it seemed to be a bit fate. Coupled with K Chen's seduction, she suddenly opened the chatterbox. This project has also had its ups and downs. Originally, the above decided to invest, but the result was inexplicably withdrawn. Then, Reed's old classmate and competitor Victor suddenly invested in the project, and suddenly there was hope again. Susan was the person from Victor's company. But I didn't expect that Victor's money was not enough. The project is about to succeed, and of course they have to go around and invest in it. Stark Group is undoubtedly the best choice. There are really few richer than Tony. With all due respect, the person who sent you here has evil intentions. Suddenly, K Chen sighed. Oh, Susan, who was talking vigorously, stopped and asked. Who else doesn't know Tony's Playboy name? K Chen shook his head and said. I am a little sorry for Tony in my heart. For the sake of my brother's happiness, I can only give up your reputation. After all, he was knifed in the ribs by his brothers, and I believe Tony will forgive him. Asking you to talk to Tony about investing, not pushing you into the fire pit. When Susan heard this, she suddenly fell silent, and the expression on her face turned blue and white. Susan had complained about Reed before, but now that K Chen, an outsider, said it again, which immediately ignited her anger. Moreover, Susan has a feeling that she has found a soulmate. You're right, so I've been on guard against Tony, Susan said and looked at K Chen with defensive eyes. K Chen is the majority shareholder of Stark Group, and may be the same as Tony. Feeling this gaze, K Chen immediately said, "Don't look at me like this, I'm not familiar with Tony." He lowered one hand from the steering wheel and touched the chip in his pocket. I secretly said in my heart, "It's really unfamiliar." Susan withdrew her gaze, not knowing if she believed it. "I'm not like Tony, I'm just there to make money," K Chen said seriously. It seemed to be true. After all, he thinks he is Marvel's first affectionate, and no one can compare. Susan chose to believe, but she didn't speak anymore, not knowing what she was thinking. K Chen didn't say much, maintaining his coldness. Until I came downstairs at Susan's house. Seeing Susan get out of the car, he didn't say anything more. Such a cold attitude made Susan completely think that K Chen was really not interested in herself. This also made her feel a little unconvinced. Although the contact time was short, she felt that K Chen was a gentleman, and he was a very affectionate kind, and he was definitely much better than Reed. Along the way, she had scolded Reed to death in her heart, feeling that she wanted to leave this scumbag completely, and never wanted to give him a good face again. So, Susan, who got out of the car, turned around and said, "Mr. K Chen, quote, what's wrong?" K Chen stopped just as he was about to start, and couldn't help but ask with a smile. Sure enough, women still like to be cold. Thank you. Susan hesitated and said, "Do you want to come up and sit down? Thanks for sending me back, maybe we could have dinner." Susan was a little unconvinced when she said this. She felt that her charm should not be so bad. Women are also conquestee. She now wants to conquer K Chen with her charm. However, K Chen said, "I'm sorry, I still have some things, or next time. And I don't like ladies to treat, I'll treat you to dinner the next time we meet." K Chen was a little domineering when he said this, and although Susan was a little disappointed, she nodded and agreed. The Americans are very sincere. Washa people said that next time it will be, but it is really difficult to say unnecessarily. But the Americans say that next time, you will not forget her. Do what you say. After all, in their concept, there is no such thing as polite. So when Susan went upstairs, she didn't know why she was looking forward to meeting next time. When she came to the house, she opened the curtains and found that K Chen's Ford car had long been gone. She pursed her lips, not knowing what was going on in her mind. Since I was a child, it was the first time I felt that my charm was so bad. The other side, K Chen rushed all the way home. Susan's home is very close to his home, and it is normal to pass by and meet by chance in the future, right? Being able to live on Long Island, Susan's family is certainly not bad, but she is not rich. In the United States, the average person can't afford to go to college, let alone a PhD. Somebody became president to pay off his student loans. K Chen didn't go to Maze today. After all, he still had to take care of Lorna and Paige's emotions. They must have known their situation, but chose to acquiesce. Naturally, K Chen has to learn time management well. Only those who manage their time well can be more self-disciplined. For example, 1, 3, 5 in this home, 2, 4, 6 in another home. After making out, K Chen came to his computer. Now the computers sold outside are still big heads, but K Chen's family has installed new ones. It's Tony's masterpiece, and he is naturally able to enjoy it. There are still a lot of black technologies in this world, and later even virtual technologies are extremely perfect. K Chen plugged the chip into the computer. Suddenly, a soft and sticky sound came. The system has been activated, please name the owner. K Chen snorted when he heard this voice, and suddenly thought of a big star. So he said, just call it Ling Ling. Okay, Ling Ling serves the master, does she take over the entire manor? Yes, K Chen was familiar with artificial intelligence, and immediately went down to find Lorna and Paige to pretend to compare. When they saw him follow his word, Lorna and Paige were shocked. Until he heard Ling Ling's voice, his eyes changed when he looked at K Chen. Ahem, this is made by Tony Stark, and I didn't expect it to be like this. Poor Tony, good pot back. In the following time, K Chen often met Susan by chance. At first, Susan still drove by herself, but after getting acquainted with it, she was too lazy to drive when she saw K Chen, and went directly to K Chen's car. Time passed, and months of getting along made Susan know K Chen better. She knew that K Chen was a serious person. After getting along for several months, K Chen has never behaved badly, and in Susan's opinion, even a gentleman has gone too far. Sometimes just unconsciously touching her hand, K Chen will apologize. This made Susan a little uncomfortable, but it also made her want to conquer K Chen even more. This kind of quiet transformation, she herself did not discover, so that a heart was completely placed here in K Chen, and Mr. Fantastic Reed had long been blind. At first, Susan was just angry, but now she can see it. K Chen is much better than Reed, anyway, she is asked to take the initiative, why not take the initiative for a better one? Susan is confident in herself, and she believes that K Chen will fall under her pomegranate skirt. On this day, K Chen said to the sad-faced Susan, "How much is your fund short?" "At least a few $100 million. Susan spoke. She had already determined that K Chen was not interested in this project, so she had not asked for a long time. But she didn't think about it. Since K Chen was not interested in the project, why did he often come to her? This is K Chen's cleverness. He will never express his purpose, even if Susan thinks of it, it is only her own thought. Instead, she will go to great lengths to confirm. "I'll invest in it," K Chen said with a smile. Hundreds of millions of dollars, which is already a small number of words for him. Whether it is the Hellfire Club or the Stark Group, it is a gold-swallowing beast. And you can also pull Tony's cushion back. Really, how did you change your mind? Susan asked in surprise. This was simply the best news in this time. I just don't want to see someone always frowning and wrinkle, K Chen said seemingly casually. A sweet smile appeared on Susan's face. So overbearing. After K Chen agreed to invest, the project was up and running again. Susan also took K Chen to the field investigation. Seeing that Susan and K Chen seemed to have some close relationship, Reed was also completely dead in this heart. He didn't care about Susan, but he cared more about his career. Now it's okay to put Susan down completely. Without a woman in your heart, study the gods of nature. Wanting to space is a very troublesome thing. There is a lot of data, and the dedicated Reed has become more efficient. And time flew fast again, and it was around Christmas and New Year. K Chen told May that he had a big project, and the news reported on this space project, and May naturally believed it. Only in this way was K Chen able to spend a little more time with Susan. On Christmas Day, K Chen went to spend Christmas with May and Peter, and then told May that he could not accompany them on New Year's Eve. May is an empathetic, mature woman. Of course, she knows that men should focus on their careers, and she also asked K Chen not to be tired. Of course, K Chen will not be tired, and his life will be happy. Since he agreed to invest, his relationship with Susan has also grown by leaps and bounds. Spent the New Year's carnival with Susan and welcomed 2004. It's just that K Chen has always wanted to capture the situation, but the bold Susan launched a strong offensive. Although it is not clearly stated and what breakthrough is made, it is already possible to cuddle and hug. Just like this, Susan, who couldn't eat enough, still had a smile on her face every day. What day is full and must not die of joy? It's just that K Chen wants to wait until she becomes an invisible woman. Anyway, now Susan can't run away, even if Reed kneels down and begs her to change her mind. Seeing the better K Chen, Susan was stupid to look at Reed squarely. K Chen is young and golden, has many talents and hundreds of millions, with hundreds of millions of people, billions of talents. What is Reed comparing? Half of Susan's life is on the project, and the other half is completely on K Chen. It's just that the more anxious she is, the more K Chen won't let her succeed. The project has not yet gone to the sky, but it has arrived on K Chen's birthday. There is a saying, a lie repeated 1,000 times as the truth. He kept saying that this day was his birthday, and K Chen himself thought it was true. As for what day his real birthday was, he had long forgotten. Anyway, the real birthday is not as important as this day. Susan's side was already busier, there was not much time to meet, and it had reached a critical stage. The whole person was a lot haggard. K Chen naturally spent time at home, with Lorna and Paige. Made a big meal, and all three of them ate satisfactorily. I'm going to forget my real age. Paige shook her head and said. She hadn't counted that anymore. And looking at herself in the mirror, there has been no change in a few years, and she doesn't care about her age even more. The effect of the fountain of eternal life is too powerful. I didn't know it for a long time. Lorna also spoke. She grew up in an orphanage and was not very sensitive to birthdays and age. Therefore, they are not just their own birthdays, but only celebrate their birthdays with K Chen. For immortals, birthdays have little meaning. Birthdays are a commemoration for people with limited lives. They didn't know why K Chen kept this habit. K Chen took the hands of the two women and said, "We will live forever." The three held their hands together. K Chen silently said in his heart, "And May, Susan, Lingdi, White Queen." In the evening, K Chen bathed and changed clothes, ready to sign in. The night he came into this world, he forgot what the Latino girl looked like, but remembered this day. Congratulations to the host for successfully hiding all his strength, signing in for 11 years, and getting the check in reward, time back. Time backtracking. Those who master time will eventually play with time, and the host can go back in time, as long as there is enough energy, even if it goes back to the beginning of the universe. After 10 years of signing in, the reward is getting better and better every year. K Chen was also not surprised that his character exploded. Back in time. This ability is really powerful. Wherever it is, the ability to involve time and space is the supreme law of the universe. There are not many people who can master the ability to time. Even Ji Yuyi can't fully grasp it. She also needs to use the Eye of Agamotto, and she needs to use foreign objects. K Chen looked at his state. Host. K Chen. Items. Life-sharing necklace. Mother. Fountain of eternal life. Wonder Woman's mantra lasso. Abilities. Batman's combat ability. Hot vision. Motherland version. Telepathy. Teleportation ability. Mirror space. Immortal body. Serious punch. Time back. He went straight out the door and wanted to try this ability. With an instantaneous movement, K Chen came downstairs to Susan. He dialed the phone. The phone was immediately answered by Susan. "Susan, I'm downstairs from you, can you invite me up and have a seat?" K Chen asked. "Really?" The curtains upstairs were immediately opened, and Susan said in surprise, "Come up, I've been waiting for your words." As soon as she finished speaking, K Chen returned to his room. It's just that this time it is not teleported back, but the time backtracking used. He opened his phone and looked at it, and sure enough, the time went back a minute. But for these memories, he still exists. However, he still called Susan to confirm with her, and found that Susan no longer had this memory. If it was not taken, K Chen could use this trick to test it. Of course, this also made him sure that Susan could no longer escape the palm of his hand. After the call, he went back in time and went back to before signing in. As a result, the ability to check in is still time backtracking. "Teacher, what's wrong?" Jean looked at the ancient mage who suddenly stopped to explain the magic and asked. She had mastered these magic for a long time, but Ji Yuyi required her to understand it thoroughly, and it was very strict. It's like getting 95 points in the test, and your parents are still not satisfied, so they have to ask you to take the test with 100 points. Ji Yuyi reacted, shook his head and smiled. "It's nothing, someone wasted a few minutes of my time." Quote. "Oh." Jean Grey narrowed her eyes, and then reacted. She sensed a rush of time energy. Someone reversed time. Ji Yuyi knew his disciple's qualifications, so he nodded and said, "Yes. When you fully grasp the power in your body, you can do the same." Chin also had some expectations when she heard this. She felt that her state was getting better and better, and the phoenix in her body didn't want to occupy her for a long time, but she couldn't fully integrate with the phoenix yet. Who reversed this? I don't know, read well. Furuchi suddenly became stern again. Awesome. Tony patted K Chen's shoulder. He whispered to K Chen, you dare to mess with this kind of woman. Tony looked at Susan, who was constantly working in the field. The plan has reached its final stage, ready to go to space. Susan, as a researcher, naturally had to go up as well. She looked more dignified in her research suit, especially her hair was tied up, and there was a sense of maturity. K Chen secretly said in his heart, could it be that I have become a South thief? What's wrong? K Chen asked quietly. In my experience, this kind of woman is very serious about feelings and very active, if you find that you are careful. Tony whispered to share the experience. K Chen coughed twice, of course he knew. That's why he approached Susan pretending to be a decent gentleman. We're different, Tony, K Chen whispered. I never spend my heart, I am all true feelings. Tony gave K Chen an internationally friendly gesture. Susan, who finally rested for a while, came to chat with K Chen for a while, and then continued to get busy. The cosmic storm is approaching, and they must prepare everything before it arrives. Do you think they can succeed? After all, Tony invested money, although he was fooled by K Chen, but he still cared more. I don't know, K Chen said casually. How to define Tony's success? They definitely got nothing. Not necessarily. Read these people spent Tony's money and obtained superpowers, which must not be given to Tony to experiment. But Tony wasn't necessarily interested in that stuff. Tony was a staunch believer in science, and even the great power of the Hulk later, he dismissed it, firmly believing that technology would be even more powerful. So you're paying for Pomeranian to smile? Tony saw through K Chen. It's too luxurious. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. Tony reacted at this time, so why should I pay? Seeing K Chen hugging the beauty and leaving directly in front of everyone, he felt a little messy in the wind. The secret of the human genome. He's interested in a fart. Not a biologist again. After some time, the project finally started, and Susan followed her to space. This is her job and her pursuit. In the dark dimensional space, here is complete darkness, rarely signs of life, almost nothing can be seen, nothing can be heard, and there is a death-like silence. Suddenly, the power of darkness surged and attacked towards an enchantment. The enchantment took on a golden yellow color, instantly bouncing back the power of darkness. A golden portal suddenly appeared, and a man wearing a mage's robe walked out from inside. Ji Yuyi looked at all this with a heavy face, and the eye of Agamo was hung around his neck. With your hands behind your back, look out at a dark space. Suddenly, the dark energy gathered to form a dream-colored behemoth. It is covered in magical flames, and pure dark energy makes up its body. A huge head seems to be bigger than the earth. Dormammu. Furuchi was still carrying his hands behind his back and shouting the other party's name. The huge head finally made a decaying and ancient sound, and a pair of eyes formed by magical flames stared at the thin Furuchi. Her body is so small, but her energy is so huge. Ji Yuyi. Pay off the debt. Dormammu roared almost with all his strength, and with a hint of resentment. Ji Yuyi in front of him stole the power of the dark dimension, but never paid the debt. The powerful Gui had defeated Dormammu several times, but neither side could help anyone. It wasn't until Ji Yu began to draw on the power of the dark dimension for his own use that Dormammu saw an opportunity. There is no doubt that Dormammu is here again to collect debts. For debt collection, Ji Yuyi has long been familiar with the process. It's nothing more than a roar and then a threat. If threats are useful, where in the world are there so many old people? Wait a little longer. Therefore, Ji Yuyi said directly. Lao Lai's secret, drag. If you can drag it out, you can drag it out, and if you can't drag it, you will beat the other party to death. It's just that Dormammu, as the Lord of the Dark Dimension, the highest existence in the dark magic world, is not as easy to deal with as other dimensional demon gods. I want interest, Dormammu said and brazenly attacked. It's just that Furuchi just made a gesture, and the time gem on his body flashed, and Dormammu's attack went back before it fell on her. As long as I want, you will never be able to hit me. Furuchi had a smile on his face. Give the earth to me and I will leave. Dormammu looked at Ji Yuyi and said. Dormammu dreamed of swallowing the earth into a dark dimension. Once a dimension is swallowed up by the dark dimension, it will become a darkness. The power of the dimensional demon god comes from the dimension, and the larger the dimension, the stronger the power of the demon god. Dormammu, you are all the only beings in the multiverse. Furuuchi smiled and said, and the multiverse has countless, me. Dormammu suddenly fell silent when he heard this. Only a few dimensional demon gods are unique, such as Dormammu, and most are found in every timeline, such as Mephisto. And even if there are variations of themselves in other universes, will the demon gods believe each other? But Ji-Yu-Yi is different, they are all supreme mages, and one Ji-Yu-Yi duo man can't get it, let alone unite. As early as when he had not yet become a supreme mage, Ji-Yu-Yi could travel the multiverse, and no one knew if there was a connection between these Ji-Yu-Yi. Give me a few years, no more than 10 years, and you will definitely be surprised when you come to Earth again. Furuuchi finally said, feeling the complex energy in her body, as well as her body that had been penetrated by the dark power. Dormammu naturally agreed. Hundreds of years have survived, still a few years away. For Dormammu, a few years are just a moment in its long life. The power of the dark dimension slowly dissipated, returning to its previous calmness again. Furuuchi knew that he couldn't be in a hurry. Just wait a little longer and surprise Dormammu ready. Originally, this surprise was just Strange's, but now upgraded. Furuuchi returned to Karmatage and immediately found Phoenix Girl Grey, who was meditating. Meditation is the best way for Jean and the power of the Phoenix to fuse and let her accept it, not reject it. Of course, sometimes meditation is more active, and Karmatage has earthquakes and avalanches from time to time. Teacher, the dark power in you is heavy again. Kodo looked at Furuuchi, who suddenly appeared, and said in surprise. Ji-Yu-Yi coughed twice in some embarrassment. Borrowed a little strength, what is the fuss about? But she still warned with a straight face. Jean, as a mage, never touch black magic. Then teacher, you. Jean looked at Furuuchi a little speechless. You are different from me. Furuuchi regained his cheeky state and said with a smile. You are the best talent I have ever seen, you don't need to be like me. Quote. Today's news, the Cosmic Storm program funded by Stark Group, due to the calculation error of scientific researchers, has caused huge losses, the action plan has failed, and the specific losses are still being estimated. There have already been many political and business figures expressing dissatisfaction and attributing the failure to the Stark Group, believing that if Tony Stark had not helped with the calculations, such a huge loss would not have been caused. K Chen sat on the sofa and watched the news on TV. Originally, this plan did not pay such much attention. But the Stark Group has joined in, and naturally the attention has skyrocketed. In fact, many of these leak-cutting incidents in the United States have come up with a grand plan that looks like it can succeed, attracting people from all walks of life to invest, and cutting leaks by the way. It's just that some of these plans have succeeded, and the successful ones have become famous in one fell swoop, such as Musk. Many more are failures, and losers are naturally charged with various crimes and spend the second half of their lives in prison, such as Silicon Valley, Witch, Holmes. Sometimes, genius and fraudster are just the difference between successful and unsuccessful. Read, their plans and these, which are no different, have failed now, naturally giving rise to heavy responsibility. It's just that now due to the Stark Group, things have attracted a lot of attention, so other capital has entered. Now if you lose money, you will naturally not be satisfied. Tony must be having a headache right now. Master, Tony Stark called. At this moment, the artificial intelligence Ling Ling prompted in a snorting voice. Hang up, just say I'm busy. K Chen definitely won't answer. He didn't know Tony well. Master, Miss Susan called. Ling Ling reminded again in a sizzling voice after a while. Isn't this much cooler than a maid? K Chen immediately took the mobile phone over and chose to answer it. Hey, honey. He immediately dodged Paige and Lorna. I want to see you. Susan said very little, and her voice sounded a little frightened. K Chen knew that she had just come down from space, and she had experienced such a terrifying thing, and she was probably already frightened. And now she still has a bad relationship with Reed and others. Naturally the first thing that comes to mind is K Chen. Where are you? K Chen asked immediately. I'm home. I'll be right here. After K Chen finished speaking, he immediately went out, and the Hellfire Club did not go. Although he could pass in an instant, he chose to drive. Sometimes, Proper waiting is required. Just when Susan was getting more and more afraid, K Chen came to her house and directly chose to knock on the door. Susan immediately stood up, opened the door and threw herself into K Chen's arms. Seeing her frightened look, her lips were gritted out of her teeth, and K Chen touched her hair with pity. "It's okay, it's all right." K Chen touched her long hair and said. Under his comfort, Susan gradually stabilized her mood. "It's no longer the frightened look I used to be." K Chen directly hooked his leg, and the door closed. Susan looked at K Chen and didn't say much, only a pleading. "Please." K Chen naturally would not refuse again this time. He had long wanted to get Susan. Susan's beauty is in line with the aesthetics of Orientals, her eyes are shining, her facial features are very soft, and she is not as three-dimensional as other white women. The height of 1 m 6'8" is not as tall as Ling Butterfly and Paige, but it is perfect enough. Her figure is even better to explode. K Chen directly carried her on his shoulders. Only violent treatment can make the current Susan's soul return to the body. "Susan, why are you missing?" I don't know how long it took. K Chen didn't know how many times he was crazy, and then this scene happened. Susan suddenly disappeared. Only 2 stockings remained in the air. Of course, K Chen knew that the energy in Susan's body was triggered. In the universe, the moment they were swept up by a cosmic storm, cosmic rays radiated them all. In general, natural radiation is not harmful to the human body, but this is what they ask for. Their body structure has changed, and everyone has acquired extraordinary abilities. Reed became Mr. Fantastic, Susan's brother became Thunderfire, Ben became Stone Man. Susan herself gained the ability to become invisible. She was supposed to work with Reed and them to study her physical abilities and become the Fantastic Four. But now, she just wants to be with K Chen and forget all this with a madness. And then it went completely crazy. Ah, what's going on? They turned on the light, and Susan stood in front of the mirror, looking at the mirror with only a pair of black silk left, and suddenly collapsed and shouted. The two of them jumped for a while, and K Chen was like playing a game of touching the blind, and it felt very exciting. Fortunately, there is still a pair of black silk that can identify where Susan is, otherwise K Chen can only use telepathy to find Susan. It took a while for Susan to settle down and then play a special game. She can't control her stealth ability, stealth appears from time to time, and K Chen can only rely on experience. I don't know how long it took. Before the sage, K Chen asked, "Honey, what's going on with you?" Susan's mood has also stabilized at this time, the effect of stealth has disappeared, she is very smart, and she has thought of the possibility at this time. "I suspect that the rays in the cosmic storm changed my body structure." Quote. She paused, a professional word, which confused K Chen. "Isn't it just gaining superpowers? Say so tall to you." Susan could only control the light a little at first, but she didn't expect to be stimulated by K Chen like this, and her ability was directly revealed. "I have to test my body, I don't know if there will be any harm. You also have to know if you can control this ability, in case you can't control it, it's troublesome." Then, Susan said with some concern, "If you can't control the stealth ability, you suddenly disappear while walking on the road, leaving only clothes, which will scare others to death. Go to Stark Group, Tony's machine must be better." K Chen was still very relieved about Tony. Mr. Fantastic Reed can detect his own body, isn't Tony casual? And he was a little more at ease with Tony. Although Tony is a prodigal son of flowers, he also knows the truth that a friend's wife cannot be bullied. He had stayed away from Susan before, and now he didn't dare to touch her. Hearing that K Chen was still thinking about herself, Susan was very excited to hold K Chen. This excitement, her ability appeared again, and suddenly disappeared in front of K Chen's eyes, and she could only feel her presence and temperature. K Chen was not Lu Shahui, and he couldn't hold back immediately. "Wait until I recover," Susan exclaimed. "No, I like it. Can you find it?" The next day, Stark Building. Susan wears a research suit and tests under the scanning of various sophisticated instruments. "This is what I use to give medical examinations to employees." "Are you sure she has superpowers?" Tony asked K Chen. K Chen did not hook up with him because they were not familiar. "Don't worry, I saw it yesterday, but she can't control herself now," K Chen said. I suspect that it was that cosmic storm that changed the genetic sequence and body structure in her body, so she was different from ordinary people. After studying last night, K Chen understood what was going on. After all, he has the ability to learn from Batman. But in fact, to put it bluntly, it is just a sentence. The rich rely on technology, the poor on mutation. Body mutation. Tony touched his chin and said, haven't a few other people changed as well? It seems that this plan is not a loss, at least we have results. Tony was scolded to death. Now there is finally a little good news. Soon, Susan's test was completed, and on the surface there was no change, but the cells and genes were slowly changing. It doesn't seem to have any side effects. Tony said in surprise. If you want, you can also do deeper inspections, I can improve the machine. There is no harm. K Chen pretended to be relieved when he heard this, which made Susan very moved. Of course, there is no harm, there are many benefits. Then no, this is my girlfriend. He immediately grabbed Susan's waist and left. It's too exhausting to pretend that you don't know Tony. Tony lamented that K Chen was a guy with the opposite gender and no humanity. But knowing the news, he naturally won't let Reed's group go. Originally, he didn't care about this, even if he obtained superpowers, it only made him envious. Tony is a person who likes to pretend and likes to show off the most. With superpowers, I will definitely tell the world the first time. However, Reed and these people made him lose money, and naturally they want to get it back. Victor is not rich at all, and he cannot play him in the matter of capital. So, Tony pulled them to study the body. K Chen took Susan to start studying her abilities. The only thing that can be known now is that when you have ups and downs inside, the power will be revealed. K Chen said seriously, you have to try to see if you can control it in this situation. Hearing K Chen's words, the ignorant Susan asked, how? Like last night, in the face of new prey, K Chen had endless strength. He studied with Susan for a few days, and Susan was finally able to control her stealth ability. After a little communication between the clever two, Susan knew that what she could control was actually light. Just refracting and so on her creates an invisible effect. But in fact she is still there, but others can't see her. However, what troubled Susan was that she controlled the light to achieve the effect of invisibility, making her hair invisible, but unable to hide the clothes on her body. It didn't matter what color she wore. After trying it with K Chen for a few days, any model and brand are useless, it seems that it is a material problem. After all, no Balenciaga nor Valentino can follow and become invisible together. Perhaps only special materials can be invisible together. Balenciaga is a luxury brand that caught fire in the 30s of the 20th century, Valentino came a little later, but also in the 60s, and is now highly respected. Women love to wear, men love to look. The feel is even better to silky smooth. After the appraisal, these brands cannot be invisible, and they cannot be spent in the future. If she wanted to use her abilities, Susan naturally needed a specific uniform. Otherwise, every time she is invisible, it is equivalent to not being hidden. You can't learn the invisible man, the pervert who doesn't wear things. Susan doesn't have that hobby yet. After a few days, she was already able to master her abilities. She was ready to make a uniform herself. As a doctor, Susan has this ability, but she has not shown much before. As Marilyn Monroe said, I can be smart too, but men don't like it. Quote, K Chen doesn't have that kind of machismo, he likes his women to be smart, but he hates to be stupid. But then, her brother Johnny suddenly called her. And K Chen's happy time every day made Susan forget that she had a younger brother. At this time, Johnny has also become a thunderbolt, but K Chen does not want to see him. Because seeing his face is like seeing Captain America. Johnny has also benefited a lot from this. Since high school, because he looks like Captain America, countless girls have dated him. In fact, Tony Stark hates Johnny too because he hates Captain America. But there was no way, in order to study them, Tony could only resist the urge to beat him. Susan, where are you? Johnny looked for Susan excitedly. I'm at home, what's wrong? Susan, who was dressing, asked. She had just prepared to go out with K Chen. Hurry up and come to Stark Group, I have something important to tell you, but I guess you have already found yourself changed, right? Johnny said excitedly. Hee, I have long been able to master it. Susan knew what he was going to say and immediately scoffed. Hitting a younger brother is everyone's responsibility. So soon. Johnny was a little speechless. Anyway, hurry up and come to Stark Group, we are going to make specific clothing. Susan hesitated, but still chose to go to the Stark Group with K Chen. Don't want it in vain, don't want her to spend money anyway. With the ingenuity of Tony and Reed, it was natural to create uniforms of specific materials in a short period of time. Tony was a little envious at first, but when he saw the stone man, he immediately did not envy. Changes in the anatomy of the body are completely unknown. Like Reed, he can still accept it, because there are more ways to play. But Big Ben is like this, even if he is Tony Stark, even if he has a lot of money, those cover girls are afraid that they will leave him, unless the other party has a heavy taste. This also makes Tony more convinced that mutations are unreliable, and technology can give him a sense of security. Soon, Susan and K Chen arrived. Susan showed her abilities. In addition to stealth, she also mastered the ability to create invisible force fields and energy shields. With Susan's ingenuity, she quickly figured out how to make these abilities even stronger. Tony envied Susan's abilities the most. Stealth, this is the ability that many men dream of. The superpowers that men want the most are nothing more than two. One is mind reading, the other is stealth. When Victor Von Doom returned home, he suddenly noticed a change in himself. He found that his body had become like steel. This forced him to make himself a metal mask. Apparently, under the transformation of the cosmic storm, he also acquired special abilities. It's just that Victor in this world is undoubtedly very weak compared to himself in countless multiverses. In other worlds, Victor is famous and nicknamed Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom of other worlds is not an ability obtained through cosmic storms. Because he doesn't have any superpowers himself, he has a super high IQ. Dr. Doom's strength comes from the steel suit. He can create a technological suit that is not weaker than Iron Man. He also has an amazing magical talent, and by learning magic, he can even compete for the title of Supreme Mage. He perfectly combines technology and magic, and can tear Thanos by hand and kill the laser eye with part of the power of the Phoenix. But this is the most brilliant Dr. Doom. Victor in this world, no different from the Fantastic Four, is the energy obtained from the cosmic storm, which is completely insufficient. Victor himself does not know this. People are very easy to inflate. After suddenly gaining great power, his ambition emerged. In this world, he himself is rich, and if he already has money, he naturally wants power. This is the case with countless businessmen, who will not be satisfied with only having money and want to get involved in other things. Now Victor sees hope, and he wants to use his superpowers to control the world. Mutants. Victor looked at his arm that turned into steel, and his whole body seemed to have this trend. But he was not afraid, but felt invincible. He picks up his mask and prepares to go to the Brotherhood of Mutants to work with. As the only woman to gain superpowers, Susan's uniform was the first to be made. It's just that measuring the size takes a little time. Although K Chen can casually say Susan's three-dimensional. The uniform is still blue. Perhaps this color is more popular with researchers. And it is very close, able to show Susan's figure. Susan, who was in uniform, tried it out. Sure enough, all of them were invisible. At this moment, there will no longer be a situation where she only stealth her body, but her clothes have no effect. This means that K Chen is really going to touch the blind. After having the uniform, K Chen and Susan went back to play games directly. The Fantastic Four could not exist anymore, because Susan only had K Chen in her eyes now, and no one else seemed to see it. Even if it was her brother Johnny, she wouldn't care much. Go as you like. At this time, Susan did not know K Chen's ability, thinking that K Chen was just a person who liked fitness. His body is fantastic, so that Susan doesn't want to leave. She only felt that she didn't spend enough time with K Chen. K Chen was too busy. As the initial enthusiasm faded, K Chen only saw Susan once in 2 to 3 days, and Susan had to return to work. This is no way. Even if K Chen is proficient in time management, he is also incompetent. He had to go back and forth between several places. His own home, the Hellfire Club, May's home, and Susan's house. May and Susan only thought his career was heavy. After all, K Chen's worth so much will definitely not be very leisurely. In fact, rich people are really not busy at all, but occasionally busy, most of the time extremely leisurely. You may drink tea every day, and the money will go to your pocket. Not to mention K Chen, he was really not interested in making money. Time management is the most important thing for him. And in his absence, Susan quickly became familiar with her superpowers. She can create a force field in the human body, and if it is an explosion and other effects in someone else's body, put it in her own body, and she actually learned to fly. One day, she directly flew out invisibly to find K Chen. Fortunately, K Chen's telepathy sensed that something was wrong, otherwise the essence of the scumbag would be exposed. He was waiting for May to leave work, decisively started the car and left, and went to Susan's house instead. Susan immediately flew back to wait for him, not revealing that she was checking the post just now. As Tony said, women like Susan are not only conservative, but also serious and single-minded. In other words, the desire to control is stronger. K Chen had dated possessive women a long time ago. Even if he talked to other women, possessive people would feel uncomfortable, even angry. If Susan finds out that K Chen is a scumbag, I am afraid that I will come to K Chen's side one night in the dead of night, taking advantage of K Chen's deep sleep. Then in the middle of the night there will be a click sound and a scream. Although she became the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants, Lorna did not come to the Brotherhood headquarters very often. Occasionally when she is bored, she will come and take a look. As for how to help mutants gain a place on Earth, she thought for a long time and had no clue. Humans and mutants are obviously the same kind, why is the relationship so tense? In order to be optimistic about her, Paige will also come out with Lorna. Of course, Lorna will only think that Paige is also a little bored, and will come up to relax. I just didn't expect that today when the Mutant Brotherhood came, she was told that someone was waiting for her. Magneto went out to find new mutants to join the Brotherhood. Lorna had no agent, and the Brotherhood naturally had to wait for her to come. Lorna and Paige entered the Brotherhood and suddenly saw a man with a metal mask. "What are you?" Lorna asked with her hands folded in front of her and tilted her head slightly. Victor groaned slightly and thought of a nickname for himself on the spot. "You can call me Dr. Doom." Quote, he himself is very knowledgeable and wants to destroy everything. Lorna just skimmed the corners of her mouth when she heard this, looking very disdainful. Seeing that this person was dressed in metal, he also dared to appear in front of her. "Is there something going on with you?" Lorna sat on the sofa very domineeringly, and then put her leg on the other thigh. "Paige looks like a little henchman. Dr. Doom is metallicized and has no worldly desires. This may be the only place where he feels sad. As a rich man, the most critical place is useless. What else could he pursue if he did not pursue power? I'm here to work with you." Victor, who turned into Dr. Doom, spoke. "Oh," Lorna showed a slightly interested look, thinking that he had some high opinion. Paige frowned. She subconsciously felt that this kind of person was not a good person, but the Mutant Brotherhood would be Lorna's, and she didn't have much to say. However, good or bad is not so easy to judge. Everyone has their own distinguishing standards. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.